Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 81 Symbiotic Contract. The icy breath is spreading. The snowflakes are almost forming a huge storm. The storm is spreading, and the whole world is turning into snow white at this moment. Outside, Thor and others are watching all this nervously. And in the center of the canyon, in a world completely transformed by wind and snow, a huge vortex is formed. In the center of the vortex, an extremely pure and highly condensed water element is condensed. This water element is essentially different from ordinary water elements. With an icy breath, it seems to be enough to freeze everything. Anna's figure is moving slowly. The magic light shield around her has been broken for more than 4 layers, leaving only the last weak layer. And it is still shaky. But her figure is still moving forward step by step. Crack! A light sound came up, and the last magic light shield was completely broken. The ice began to spread to her body. Great goddess of life, please listen to my call, the call of the son of nature, the opportunity to coexist with all things. The girl's voice was still ringing, her lips gradually turned white. The voice was not loud, but it seemed to carry a certain kind of magic. It passed through the wind and snow, through the long distance, and was transmitted into the vortex. In the vortex, the illusory little figure seemed to suddenly solidify a little. But at this moment, Anna's figure began to be unable to move. The extreme cold began to freeze her body. It even spread from the skin to her entire body. Can't succeed. In the end, only this thought came out of Anna's mind. The next moment her consciousness seemed to be completely silent. But at this moment, buzz! A ripple instantly rose. Immediately afterwards, a light blue magic circle lit up in the center of the vortex. At the same time, a light blue magic circle also lit up under the feet of Anna's frozen figure. Accompanied by the lighting of 2 magic circles. A mighty water element, no, it should not be called water element, but a higher level of ice element began to gather. Boom! The wind and snow suddenly expanded. The extreme coldness began to spread further at this moment. No, it was not spreading. It gathered towards Anna and the center. At this moment, the world began to freeze. Even the life force could no longer support it. Outer periphery. Sir, we have to leave immediately. A formal knight spoke with difficulty. Yes, sir, it's getting colder here, and the magic light shield can't hold up. Another formal knight also spoke. Wait a little longer. Thor gritted his teeth, looked at another layer of magic light shield swaying, and made a decision. Facing Thor's decision, several formal knights were a little anxious, but they could only wait. Time passed slowly. Crack! Another layer of magic light shield could not support it and broke apart with a bang. The original layer of light shield was broken again, and only the last layer of magic light shield was left. It can be expected that it will be broken in no more than 3 breaths. However, unexpectedly, the surrounding wind and snow began to decrease. The extremely cold feeling gradually receded. No, it did not recede, but all gathered inward. What is this? Thor instantly noticed this change, and his eyes instantly looked towards the center. He couldn't help but show a hint of joy on his face. And he found it, and others soon found it. A sound of surprise rang out. But Thor didn't care. Instead, he looked into the distance with his eyes. And it seemed to verify his thoughts. Buzz! A ripple spread, and the next moment a light blue magic circle spread directly on the sky. Then came the second light blue magic circle. The magic circle flashed with icy light, covering the entire sky. The surrounding wind and snow, the coldness completely disappeared at this moment. Anna's figure floated in the air. The light blue magic circle wrapped her body. 1 minute later, I saw a small light blue figure flying out from another magic circle and shooting towards Anna's position. Buzz! The magic circle seemed to be activated at this moment. A larger ice element burst out. Anna's disguise faded away, and her fair skin, delicate features, pointed ears, and a light blue long dress were embellished. There were dense ice elements flying around her body. Above her head, a small ice blue figure floated with joy. It was a bird that looked a bit like a human. Its skin was crystal clear, but it was only the size of a palm. It looked like it was wearing a double-layer braided royal crown. There were some diamond-shaped dark blue spots on its inner ears, body and tail, which formed a sharp contrast with the light blue of its body. There were also dark blue areas on its small hands and feet, which looked like it was wearing boots. Behind it were two pairs of light blue wings, which fluttered slightly, looking extremely cute. At this moment, it was happily flying around Anna. From now on, we'll be partners. Can I give you a name? Anna opened her eyes, and there was a touch of excitement on her beautiful face. Okay, we are partners. The ice elf sounded with a cheerful voice. It was just born and was full of interest in everything. Then, your name is Nicole, my name is Anna. Anna smiled and spoke. Nicole has a name. Anna. The ice elf became more and more cheerful. At this moment, Anna couldn't help but smile. Having signed a symbiosis contract with the ice elf, she has now completely transformed into an elf, even similar to a natural elf. She is no longer a half-elf. At the same time, her magic talent has once again been greatly improved. She even felt that she could master higher-level magic. And the benefits don't stop there. There are some things that even she cannot understand now. As the most advanced contract, the symbiotic contract has unimaginable benefits. This is especially true when the target of the special symbiosis contract is still a nature spirit. Her eyes involuntarily glanced at Thor in the distance, Anna's heart moved, and she made a decision immediately. Nicole, I need to sign a symbiosis contract with a very important person to me, is that okay? Anna spoke, looking at the cheerful and fast ice elf. Of course. The most important person to Anna is the most important person to Nicole. The ice elf flew and spoke with a smile. When it is just born, it is extremely simple and does not think too much. It signs a contract with Anna and will naturally believe in Anna unconditionally. Anna smiled and nodded. The next moment, ice elements surrounded him, and his figure floated towards Thor. Chapter 82 Talent finally improved, breaking through to become a formal knight. Surrounded by ice elements, Anna's figure slowly descended. At this moment, the eyes of the official knights, including Thor, were attracted by her. Anna was too beautiful at this moment. Exquisite facial features, beautiful face. Ice blue dress, two pointed ears, everything was enough to attract people's attention. Master, does it look good? This is me. Anna spoke with a gentle smile, and the whole person looked particularly happy. Congratulations. Thor came back to his senses and nodded with a smile. Hee. Thank you, Master, this time. Master, Anna also has a gift for you. Anna smiled and said, Gift. Thor looked a little confused and asked subconsciously. And at the moment when he finished speaking. As Anna spoke, the light blue magic circle under her feet lit up. At the same time, the light blue magic circle under Thor's feet also lit up. What is this? The magic circle lit up, and Thor was startled. He subconsciously wanted to react, but Anna's gentle power began to penetrate, making his figure seem to fall into a warm ocean at this moment. At the same time, ice elves flew above their heads. Countless ice elements began to interweave all around. Thor felt that there was a force in his body that was constantly flowing out and began to spread to his limbs. The life force in his body began to increase rapidly. Originally, he had reached the peak of the apprentice knight and was very close to the official knight. However, if he wanted to break through the official knight, it would probably take about a year. But at this moment, as his life force continued to increase, his life seed began to solidify. Wrapped in waves of icy breath, the life seed gradually took shape from illusion. At the same time, a more majestic life force burst out. Boom! The surrounding wind and snow were swept up, and Thor's breath also changed at this moment. What is this? Breakthrough. My lord is about to break through. A dozen of the official knights were a little confused at first, but soon, their pupils widened with shock. Because at this moment, Thor's aura had reached the level of a formal knight. It was not even just a breakthrough. As the life force in his body continued to surge, Thor's aura was still increasing. The large amount of life force contained in the fruit of life he swallowed that day also surged out at this moment. His aura was constantly improving, and his life seed was also growing. The early stage of the official knight. The middle stage of the official knight. The late stage of the official knight. The peak of the official knight. Boom! A more powerful life force surged. At the same time, as the life force surged, the icy aura also began to spread around, and layers of ice were spreading under his feet. Anna signed a symbiotic contract with the ice elf, and then signed a symbiotic contract with Thor. As a result, the power of the ice elves not only flowed into Anna's body, but also into Thor's body, causing Thor's body to change. His original qualifications also began to transform. His talent was constantly improving. Even the life force began to change. In the magic circle, countless ice elements intertwined and gradually flowed into Thor's body. Thor's eyes had closed at some point. The formal knights around him. They also consciously began to disperse and guard Thor in them. In a blink of an eye, the night gradually fell. When the stars gradually embellished the sky, Thor slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, his eyes gradually changed from the original gold to ice blue. At the same time, countless ice elements began to surround him, just like Anna before, and his aura was even more stable at the peak of the formal night, only one step away from the great night. And more importantly, as mentioned before, his night qualifications have almost transformed. At this moment, his qualifications are probably not much inferior to Ryan. The life force even contains ice elements. In addition, there are unimaginable benefits. For example, lifespan. The lifespan of humans is only hundreds of years. Unless they can break through the holy night, even the sky knight will find it difficult to break through 120 years. But the lifespan of elves is almost 1,000 years. And because of Anna's contract with the natural elves, even if she is only a half-elf, her lifespan is longer. No one knows how long it will last. After sharing life at this moment, Thor even feels that his lifespan has become extremely long. 1,000 years, 2,000 years. Maybe even longer. This time he can be said to have really obtained unimaginable benefits. Even he has never thought about it. Talent, lifespan, strength, those are what he needs most now. Needless to say, the former, only with enough talent can you go far enough. Needless to say, lifespan and strength. What is most needed in the entire northern province is strength. Especially now that the Minotaur is about to attack, it is even more so. Thank you. Thor took a deep breath, suppressed the ups and downs and joy in his heart, looked at Anna, and spoke softly. Master, this is Anna's gift. Anna blinked mischievously and spoke with a smile. Thor smiled and nodded. He didn't say anything more. Anna, I want to rest. The ice elf danced, a little tired, and its figure sank into Anna's brow. As the ice elf sank, an ice-blue diamond crystal appeared in Anna's brow, and the ice element around Anna became more and more concentrated. Let's go. We should go back. Otherwise, the main valley may be in chaos. Thor spoke softly. Anna nodded. The crowd then packed up and started the return journey. At this moment, the main valley, as Thor said, was almost completely in chaos. A few days passed. More news began to reach the main valley. The most important of them was that the Tauren tribe was getting closer and closer to the main valley. If they had some lucky thoughts before, then at this moment, they can be sure that the group of minotaurs are heading towards the main valley. Although they had considered staying to deal with it before, and were unwilling to abandon the territory, Thor also gave them some confidence, but Thor still did not show up for several days, and the minotaurs were getting closer and closer. Even the noble lords were a little restless, let alone the pioneer lords. In fact, since yesterday, one pioneer lord after another has begun to flee. Today, the number is even greater. But Thor still has no sign of returning. Such a result, how can the three noble lords not panic? Chapter 83 Return, First Main Conference. Lawrence Castle. Baron Graydon and Baron Valmy gathered again. But at this moment, compared with a few days ago, their worries were a little more intense. Baron Pape, has that one not returned yet? Has the Eagle territory really not evacuated? That Tauren tribe is only 200 miles away from the main valley, at most 3 days. Baron Graydon couldn't help but speak first. Yes. The pioneer lords who promised to resist with us in the main valley have only come 3 now, and the others have fled. Baron Valmy also spoke. A few days passed, making their expressions more and more worried. It's true that they haven't returned yet. But the Eagle territory has indeed not evacuated. Pape Lawrence was not much better, and his expression was also worried. If he hadn't been completely sure that the Eagle territory had not changed, he would probably not be able to hold back. But as the Tauren got closer and closer, it was not a question of whether they could hold back, but a question of the huge crisis they were about to face. Let's go and have a look. We can't wait any longer. Once the Tauren tribe arrives, if we don't have enough strength, we can't stop them, so let's prepare to evacuate. Baron Graydon was silent for a moment, then stood up and spoke again. Okay. Indeed, this time it's not something we can handle. Pape Lawrence was silent for a moment, then nodded and agreed. And Pape Lawrence agreed. Baron Valmy naturally had no objection, and soon agreed. The three of them quickly headed for the Eagle territory. One day later, the three of them arrived at the Eagle territory again. But the result was still unsatisfactory. Sir Thor hasn't returned yet. Pape Lawrence couldn't help but speak again. Yes, Baron Pape, it may take some time. The Lord said that he will definitely return within 10 days. Ryan nodded and spoke solemnly. At this moment, even Ryan knew what was going to happen, and even he had to be nervous. 10 days. This. Baron Valmy was about to speak subconsciously. But he was stopped by Baron Graydon. Thank you, Knight Ryan. Baron Graydon pulled Baron Valmy, then thanked Thor. Waiting for the three to leave. Let's go. 10 days, I'm afraid at most 3 days, the Minotaur tribe will probably arrive. Quote. Baron Graydon spoke with a hint of bitterness, and his expression was somewhat helpless. This. Quote. The two looked at each other with reluctance, but finally could only nod dejectedly. The Tauren tribe was not something they could handle. 10 days was not enough, so they could only give up. At most, they could pay some more gold coins as atonement, which was better than being buried here. Just when they were about to leave, dust was flying in the distance. The ground was shaking. The entire Eagle territory was suddenly nervous. But in the midst of tension, the figures in the distance gradually approached. The three saw the newcomers first. When they saw the figure in the lead, the three were stunned for a moment, and then a hint of joy appeared. It's that Lord Thor. He's back. Baron Graydon's voice sounded with surprise. Then the other two couldn't help but show joy. The guards in the Eagle territory also quickly relaxed. Soon the unicorn led everyone to the Eagle territory. Hello Lord Thor. Hello Lord Thor. Lord Thor. Quote. The three of them were delighted and quickly stepped forward to perform the knight's etiquette. Just at the moment of greeting, the pupils of the three of them couldn't help but shrink. You broke through. Sir Thor. With a sense of surprise and disbelief, Pape Lawrence looked at Thor in shock, and even couldn't help but feel it carefully. And his exclamation also made others notice the change in Thor's breath at this moment. This made the three of them all look shocked. You know, not long ago, the other party was just an apprentice knight, but now he is already a formal knight. Sorry, I kept you waiting for a long time. Thor looked at the three of them and couldn't help but smile and didn't care about their exclamation. Sir Thor, you are too polite. Soon. The three of them hurriedly spoke. Three of you, I will continue to be polite with you. The Minotaur is about to attack, so let's go in and talk. Thor jumped off the unicorn, handed the unicorn to the guards, and then led the three of them into the Eagle Castle again. The three nodded and responded quickly. Then the four of them came to the castle. Anna quickly went down to prepare. And the four of them sat down. Sir Thor, do you know the scale of the Minotaur attack this time? As soon as he sat down, Baron Graydon couldn't help but ask. I know a little. The Minotaur should have used a secret method to increase the number of Minotaur. Now there should be about 6,000 or 7,000. Thor nodded, and then spoke with a groan. Indeed, although these secrets only increase the number of ordinary Minotaurs, they are different from goblins. Even if the secrets increase the combat power of Minotaurs, ordinary human men cannot cope with them. At least a reserve knight group is needed, and to be precise, there are already 7,000 of them. You know that even if we add up the number of reserve knights under our command, it will not reach such a large number. We don't have Earth Knights, so it may be difficult to cope with it. Baron Valmy also spoke. His expression was filled with deep worry. Sir Thor, I don't know if we have a chance to deal with this crisis, or abandon the territory and pay the kingdom a ransom. Pape Lawrence was more direct. The Tulip Kingdom has regulations. Any knight can become a pioneer knight, but since he has become a pioneer knight, he must protect his territory. Once he abandons it, he needs to pay a ransom to the kingdom to forgive his crime of losing the territory. Such a sum of gold coins is undoubtedly very large. No one would be willing unless it is absolutely necessary. But if he couldn't handle it at this moment, then he had no choice but to do so. The three of them spoke, and their eyes turned to Thor. Facing the anxious and nervous expressions of the three people, Thor knew that he had to calm their hearts at this moment, otherwise these people might not be able to persist. Without the support of these three Baron Lords, even if his strength had increased a lot at this moment, it would be difficult to withstand this crisis. Everyone, listen to me. As Thor's words sounded, the whole surroundings suddenly became quiet. Chapter 84 Powerful Strength. Three of you, of course we have a chance this time. This is just a Tauren tribe that failed in the tribal war. Even if the number of Tauren has been restored, the Tauren that can be spawned by secret methods are not as good as the real Tauren. With the strength of our three families, we can naturally resist it. And don't forget that you can gain merit and upgrade your title in the war with the orcs. Compared with the Kingdom War and the Orc War, this is much simpler. If we give up directly this time, how can we face the next Kingdom War and the Orc War next time? Unless all three of you want to give up being nobles and return to being wandering knights. Thor's voice sounded, and the words were not loud, but at this moment, the three of them didn't know what to say when they heard his words. Not to mention the Orc War, no one knows when the next one will be, but the Kingdom War is different. It will break out every 100 years, which determines the scope and strength of each kingdom. This is an existence that all nobles cannot avoid. You can leave this time, but you can't leave the Kingdom War. This is a forced existence for the nobles. And the nobles who do not have the strength to participate in the Kingdom War will be deprived of their titles. This means that the Baron status they had obtained with great difficulty will be lost again. This is an existence that they can hardly tolerate. Sir Thor, if you can withstand this disaster, I, Pape Lawrence, will completely obey your orders. Pape Lawrence spoke solemnly. Sir Thor, the same is true for my Valmy territory. Sir Thor. Baron Valmy and Baron Graydon also stood up and spoke solemnly. Sir Barons, you are too kind. But this time we really need to work together to deal with it. However, Sir Barons, can you gather all the knights? Looking at the expressions of the three people, Thor couldn't help but smile, and then he hesitated for a moment and spoke slowly. Hearing Thor's words, the three hesitated. But only for a moment. Pape Lawrence nodded and agreed. Okay, Sir Thor, I will gather all the knights when I go back. As soon as he spoke, Pape Lawrence made up his mind. Even if there are risks, he can only do this at this moment. And Papalorens made a decision. After all, if Thor really wanted to do something, he would have done it in the previous war. There is no need to wait until this time. And Papalorens agreed, and the other two looked at each other and nodded in agreement. They can persist until now. They are naturally unwilling to give up. Even if it is just a glimmer of hope, they want to fight for it. And with the three people's agreement, it will undoubtedly be much easier to communicate next. Then the four people discussed some matters again. The three people quickly said goodbye and left. Watching the three people leave, Thor also began to make the final preparations. This final preparation is certainly not to contact other pioneering lords. Compared with the three Baron Lords, the strength of other lords is limited, and he has no doubt that the other pioneering lords in the main valley are probably almost gone at this moment, and it is hard to say how many are left. There is not enough time. In comparison, he might as well take a look at his own strength this time and Anna's strength. The existence of the symbiotic contract. The strength of both of them has been transformed. Anna is like this, and so is he. At this moment, he is eager to know what level of strength he has reached now, whether he can fight against the Great Knight. The three are in action. Thor found Steve and Peros. One of them tested Anna's strength, and the other naturally tested his strength. On the training ground, the two stood. Sir, this. Peros was a little hesitant and a little nervous. He didn't expect that the Lord would suddenly say to compete with him today to test his strength. Although he was shocked that the Lord had reached the official knight in a short time, he was a great knight, and he was still a little worried about fighting with the Lord. No problem. Just a test. Thor smiled and said. He was not too worried. Although he was only at the peak of the official knight at the moment, he felt that he was better than the official knight with the blessing of the ice element life source. Okay. Sir, be careful. Peros took a deep breath and finally nodded. Then the life force surged and attacked Thor. The icy breath in Thor's eyes spread, and a cold life force on his body also moved. Even a faint white mist appeared on the knight's sword. The next moment, his figure also moved and rushed towards Peros. Boom! The two swords collided in midair. The powerful life force burst out. The life force of the great knight Peros was undoubtedly magnificent, and it almost overwhelmed Thor's life force in an instant. Thor couldn't help but retreat. However, the icy breath spread from Thor's sword, and the ice began to spread to Peros's sword, and even spread to Peros's life force. What is this? Peros's face changed, and his figure quickly retreated. However, the cold breath spread, and layers of ice spread out from his body. The hot air he exhaled was also quickly frozen. His body became stiff. Not good. Peros's face changed. His long combat experience felt bad at this moment. However, it was the moment when this thought came up. Be careful. Thor chuckled, and the next moment his figure moved, and he instantly appeared in the sky, and slashed down with another sword. The cold air spread. The life force surged. Peros wanted to dodge. However, it was too late, and he could only hold the knight's sword in his hand to block again. Bang! The great swords collided again. The life force collided again. But this time it was more exaggerated. On the knight's sword, the cold air instantly turned into ice, and began to spread from his greatsword to his body. Bang! The knight's sword fell down. Peros hurriedly retreated. However, a cold air fell on his shoulder. You lose. Thor's voice chuckled, and a hint of joy appeared on his face. My lord, you. Feeling the cold air on his neck, Peros smiled bitterly and was shocked. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. But at this moment, boom! A terrifying cold air suddenly broke out in the distance. The next moment, in the distance, layers of ice began to spread rapidly, and it was almost visible to the naked eye that the hundreds of meters ahead were completely covered by white fog in an instant. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 85 The Minotaur is coming. Another training ground. The icy breath spread, the temperature around was dropping rapidly, and the ground had already formed a thick layer of frost, which spread directly over hundreds of meters. Steve's body was frozen in the center. Anna was startled and quickly lifted the magic. The cold air quickly receded. As the cold air receded, crack! With a light sound, the ice on Steve's body broke, and his figure walked out in a mess. Steve, ha ha ha, you also lost. At this moment, Peros's laughter sounded, with a sense of gloating. Peros. Steve's mouth twitched a little, and his eyes looked at Anna with lingering fear. At that moment, he didn't know what happened, and he was completely frozen. Even if the other party hadn't lifted it quickly, his vitality seemed to be dissipating. Not bad. Anna, this ice spell can actually freeze the knight. And Thor next to him was delighted. Anna's strength seemed to be even stronger than he had imagined, and its spread even spread out hundreds of meters. As a great knight, Steve had no power to resist. Master. Anna was a little embarrassed. Thor smiled and shook his head, then looked at Steve and Peros. Okay. Steve, Peros, you guys get ready. Tomorrow, the three barons will gather their knights. You should be ready to integrate. Also, Steve, have you prepared the things I asked you to prepare? As he spoke, his expression was cautious. Yes. It's ready. The west side of the main valley can be opened at any time. Also, the fierce fire oil has been placed. The two responded quickly, and then Steve spoke solemnly. Okay. Remember, I hope there won't be any accidents this time. Thor nodded with satisfaction. Since he knew that the Minotaur was about to invade, Thor naturally made some preparations. For example, a suitable battlefield. For example, expanding one's advantage as much as possible is the best way to deal with this crisis. Yes. Steve and Peros responded quickly. Then Thor began to make the final deployment. And the arrangement of personnel. A day passed quickly. The next day, the knights of the three barons, Pape Lawrence, Baron Valmy, and Baron Graydon, also gathered as promised. The number was even greater than Thor had imagined. Among them, Baron Pape Lawrence brought 13 official knights, more than 70 apprentice knights, and more than 300 reserve knights, while Baron Valmy brought 7 official knights, more than 30 apprentice knights, and 200 reserve knights, and Baron Graydon brought 5 official knights, more than 20 apprentice knights, and more than 300 reserve knights. It is obvious that the three barons had hidden a lot of power before. At this moment, in order to deal with this crisis, all of them were mobilized. Of course, it was not only the power of the three barons that gathered. At the same time, Lyosh Assad and the two pioneer lords who stayed behind also brought some people. Liosh has also formed a considerable force during this period of development, and the two pioneer lords who dared to stay also have considerable strength. The official knights of the Eagle territory have exceeded 70 people, the trainee knights have reached 300 people, and the reserve knights have reached 1,500 people. In the outside world, such strength is no less than some powerful viscounts. In the entire Northland province, except for Marquis Lehman and the top pioneer lords, the strength is almost the strongest, and it can almost sweep across most of the Northland province. But even so, the three barons are still a little nervous. Especially when they gathered, they found that the other pioneer lords had almost run away and only two of them came, and they became even more nervous. In the original plan, they were ready to gather the strength of the entire main valley. Although only some pioneer lords ran away at this moment, it is undoubtedly less powerful. How can they not be nervous and worried? But now, they have no other choice. Because today, the Tauren tribe is only 20 to 30 miles away from the main valley, and will arrive at the earliest tomorrow morning. It's too late to escape. And a large number of knights have gathered. Even if they want to leave, Thor will not let them go. Those damn guys actually ran away. Is it okay if they run away? If they lose their territory and can't pay the ransom, they will wait for the kingdom's sanctions. Baron Grattan couldn't help cursing inwardly, looking a little angry. Now we need to consider not this, but how to deal with it. I hope that Lord Thor has a way. Papaloran sighed lightly, his expression also carrying a bit of worry. Yes. Baron Valmy also nodded. At this moment, they were all full of tension and worry. The only one they could look forward to was Thor and the Eagle Lord. Time passed slowly. While they were nervous and preparing with the Eagle Lord. More than 30 miles away. Thousands of Tauren gathered and moved rapidly towards the main valley. Titan, God bless you, we are finally arriving. On the top of the mountain, looking at the white world in the distant sky, a very tall minotaur spoke with enthusiasm. Chief, we are here after crossing the main valley ahead. There are still many human territories there, which can allow children to give birth to more offspring. An old minotaur also spoke excitedly, looking at the ice and snow world in the distance with enthusiasm. There are gifts left by their Titan god. As long as they can get it, their minotaur tribe can also become a powerful race like Behemoth. Such a result is too attractive. So much so that they have to cross the human territory even at the risk. Don't think that they have been very smooth along the way. But that's just because the human strongmen don't want to pay attention to them now, it doesn't mean that they can't pay attention. As long as they take the time, let alone their entire tribe now, even the tribe at its peak will be easily destroyed. The moment they step into the human territory, the crisis of destruction accompanies them. They must cross the human territory as soon as possible. At least before the human strongman escapes. Okay. Let's hurry up. Remember, we need more offspring, only in this way can we get the gift of the Titan God. The great Titan God will bless us. The leader of the Minotaur nodded, and the order was quickly issued. And the Minotaur tribe of thousands of heads quickly headed towards the main river valley. If nothing unexpected happens, it will be on the shelves on the 21st, and it will explode at that time. Chapter 86 The Defeated Minotaur. Time passed slowly. A large number of knights gathered in the Eagle territory, and more news came, making Papalorans, Valmy, and Graydon more and more nervous. Even the three pioneer lords began to feel uneasy. And in this situation, the Minotaurs were getting closer. At the same time, Thor's arrangement gradually came to an end. The next day, he set off with three barons, two pioneer lords, Steve and Peros. Behind him was a knight group of thousands of people. This is also the current strength of the entire main valley. And their goal is the lower reaches of the main valley. Facing the Minotaur tribe, Thor did not choose a defensive battle. After all, in that case, the entire Minotaur tribe can be dispersed to attack other territories, and he might find it difficult to deal with it at that time. So he was ready to choose a blocking battle from the beginning. The 5 magic crystal cannons had already been transported to the front. Jennier, you take the 1st and 2nd regiments of the knights and wait for my orders in the forest on the right ahead. Imre, you take the 3rd and 4th regiments and wait for my orders in the forest on the left ahead. The figure arrived, and Thor quickly gave orders. Yes. Yes. The two responded quickly, and then the huge knights were directly reduced by more than half. And just when everyone was ready, In the distance, the roar was constantly echoing. The dust was swept, although it had rained for a month. But the rare clear weather in the past few days gradually made the ground dry. Minotaurs began to appear in the canyon ahead. When those minotaurs saw the densely packed nights ahead, they were shocked. But soon they found that there were no strong people in the nights ahead. Ha ha ha, those damn humans actually attacked. God of Titan bless us, watch us rush them. An excited voice came from the minotaurs. The pupils of each minotaur gradually turned scarlet. And facing the huge crowd of minotaurs, all the knights became a little nervous. On the hillside, Sir Thor. Baron Papillorans couldn't help but look at Thor. The same was true for several others. Don't worry. It's enough to deal with it. Next, those second-level minotaurs are rushing over. Please block them. Thor spoke solemnly. Okay. Papillorans, Valmy, Graydon, and the other two pioneer lords looked at each other, and then they nodded and agreed. This point had been discussed before, so they naturally had no objection at this moment. But after agreeing, they had to worry. So many minotaurs are not so easy to deal with. But now, they have no way out. And at the moment they responded. Buzz. 5 magic crystal cannons instantly lit up a light blue magic circle at this moment. The next moment. Boom. 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 A series of roars rose, and the 5 magic crystal cannons burst out with terrifying power at this moment. Boom. Boom boom. The huge roar echoed, and the thunder covered. The densely packed minotaurs in the distance were instantly wrapped in it. And once covered, their bodies were directly destroyed by thunder. The second-level magic core could not maximize the effect of the magic crystal cannon, but it was enough to harvest low-level minotaurs on a large scale. Especially these minotaurs were only minotaurs born by secret magic, so harvesting was naturally easier. There was even a second-level minotaur that did not have time to react and was directly hit by thunder. But in this round, from the thousands of minotaur tribes, figures rushed out one after another and came directly to the knights with ferocity. The number reached 13. It is obvious that during this period of time, the second-level minotaur has increased by one more. Boom. Boom. The magic crystal cannon lit up again. The terrifying roar echoed again. 2 more second-level minotaurs were covered. However, it was after the second round of magic crystal cannon bombardment. The remaining 11 minotaurs rushed out of the canyon and arrived on the hillside. If these second-level minotaurs were allowed to rush into the knights, the result would be obvious. At this moment, there were not many formal knights in the knights. Do it, Thor said, and the next moment he rushed up with a knight's sword in hand. Behind him, Steve and Perros followed closely. The remaining 3 Baron Lords and the 2 Pioneer Lords looked at each other and also rushed up with knights' swords in hand. 8 to 11. Among them, there were 3 second-level peak minotaurs. There was almost no chance of winning. However, Thor was not too nervous. The ice life source burst out, and his figure directly stopped a second-level peak minotaur. At the same time, Steve and Perros also faced the remaining 2 second-level peak minotaurs. Originally, it was extremely difficult for them to deal with the peak second-level minotaur. Even though Thor had the blessing of ice life force, there was still a big gap between the two. Steve and Perros were similar. However, magic halos lit up on them. Behind them, Anna's magic elements surged. The sound of chanting sounded. Free wind, thunderstorm, the end of 1,000 hands, can't be touched, the dark hand, can't be reflected, the archer of the sky, the road of light, the wind that fanned the fire. When you gather together, don't be confused, just follow my instructions. Light bullet, 8 bodies, 9 lines, heavenly scriptures, fast treasure, big wheel, great turret, draw the bow to the distance and dissipate brightly. The emblem of light and turbidity is faintly revealed, the unruly and crazy temperament emerges but denies it. One after another, the blessing magic was set on the 3 people, which made the breath of the 3 people continue to improve, and the source of life continued to burst out, and it was even briefly equal to the 3 second-level peak minotaurs. Since the 3 peak level 2 minotaurs were all stopped, the remaining 9 minotaurs were stopped by the 5 pioneer lords. The remaining 2 minotaurs were attacked by official knights and stopped. But this was just a block. Thor and his 3 companions could not block for a long time. Having lost the power of official knights, it was impossible to resist the bombardment of thousands of minotaurs. Boom! A powerful breath burst out, and magic auras surrounded the body. The icy breath continued to spread, and even the body of the peak level 2 minotaurs was somewhat affected. Thor ignored it and just kept bursting out. He still needed to wait. This was not the best time. Boom. Rumble. The magic crystal cannon was still blooming. The powerful power of thunder continued to cover. And in the thunder coverage, the sea of AA fire began to spread. A large amount of fierce fire oil began to ignite. Thor naturally knew the specific direction of the Minotaur invasion from the daily intelligence. And he had already made preparations. For example, the entire surrounding area had already been covered with fierce fire oil. At this moment, in the roar of thunder, the surrounding area gradually turned into a sea of AA fire. The sea of AA fire spread. Many Minotaur were directly burned. And the large number of Minotaur that dived began to fall into panic. Chapter 87 Flooding the Seven Armies. The sea of AA fire spread. The Minotaurs suddenly fell into panic. These Minotaurs were born by secret methods after all, and they were undoubtedly much inferior to the real Minotaurs. In a sense, they could only be regarded as beasts, not orcs, and their role was only for sacrifice, not as real tribesmen. At this moment, facing the sea of AA fire, they naturally panicked instinctively. Even if there were some real Minotaurs among them, they were not too eye-catching among the thousands of rioting Minotaurs. And such a result undoubtedly made the second-level peak Minotaurs a little anxious. Damn it! A second-level peak Minotaur sounded with a fierce voice, and the next moment a bloody breath rose from its body. Boom! A powerful breath burst out. Bellows flew backwards directly. Puff! A mouthful of blood was spit out, and the magic auras on his body even shook for a moment. After shaking Perros away, the Minotaur was about to rush into the knights to destroy the magic crystal cannons. But before he could act, Perros rushed over again and intercepted him. Boom! The powerful life force burst out again. At this moment, Perros gritted his teeth and began to overdraw his life force. And at this moment, blood rose from the bodies of the second-level Minotaurs. At the same time, the aura began to rise. Thor's face changed. No more hesitation. Even if it actually takes a little time. But at this moment, he couldn't care so much. Mark. The voice spoke. The next moment in the nights. A magic crystal cannon rushed into the sky and rushed into the sky. Boom. In the sky, the light of the magic crystal cannon bloomed, and thunder covered the sky. Even if it was dozens of miles away, it could be clearly perceived. Far away. The upper reaches of the main river valley. At this moment, Lyosh Assad has been guarding here with a group of people. In front of them is a huge dam. The length is more than 100 meters, and the height is 50 meters. This is the result of Thor leading the three baronies to build together during this period. In the extraordinary world, such a huge project has become extremely simple. When the thunder appeared in the sky, Lyosh Assad did not hesitate at all. With a wave of his hand. Then, the knights threw the prepared magic scrolls directly onto the dam. Boom! 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 A huge roar sounded, and the powerful energy instantly tore the entire dam apart. In the dam, the huge water flow that Thor had gathered as much as possible during this period of time suddenly poured down at this moment. The main river has just reached the flood season during this period of time. Coupled with a month of continuous rain, let a huge amount of water flow gather in the dam. At this moment, accompanied by the dam bursting, the water from the dam roared down and directly covered the area below. The water flow was like a galloping horse. At this moment, it had the power to destroy everything. A large number of trees, sand and gravel along the way, and everything within sight were instantly covered. In just a blink of an eye, it rushed hundreds of meters away. Along the way, a large number of areas were washed away, and the eagle leader that roared past Thor went further away. On the battlefield, the sea of AA fire was still spreading. At the same time, the second-level Minotaurs were also erupting. The knights of the main valley were obviously unable to hold on. And after the Minotaurs were in chaos for a while, some elite Minotaurs began to put out the sea of AA fire. In addition, the heavy rain some time ago made the air extremely humid, and the effect of the fierce fire oil could not be maximized. Boom! A figure flew backwards. Pellis's mouth was bleeding, and his consciousness was a little dazed. If it weren't for the silver armor protecting him, he would have been killed by the beef man with that attack. And it's not just him at this moment. The silver armor on Steve's body has cracks. This is silver armor, but it can't hold back at this moment. Thor's face turned pale, and layers of light on the golden armor blocked the explosion of the peak second-level minotaur, and the magic halo on his body had already broken. Sir Thor, it's almost unstoppable. Not far away, Papillorans resisted 2 peak second-level minotaurs alone, and his expression was a little anxious. Others were not much better either. Especially the 2 pioneer lords. They did reach the level of a great knight, but it was very reluctant. It was difficult to deal with ordinary second-level minotaurs, let alone the second-level minotaurs that were bursting with secret magic at this moment. They were already retreating step by step. I'm afraid it won't take long. These 11 second-level minotaurs will overwhelm the entire knight group. In this extraordinary world, the strong are the most important existence, not the number. A peak level 2 tauren is enough to destroy a developed territory. Similarly, a land knight is enough to easily destroy a level 2 orc tribe. This is what Thor and his men are facing now. Level 2 peak orcs are hard to resist. Once they break away, it will be a huge impact on the defense line of the entire main valley. It is even enough to break down the current knights. So no matter what, they must be contained. But the 3 of them contained 3 second-level peak minotaurs, but the remaining 9 were not so easy to deal with. Especially these minotaurs began to use secret methods. Their strength began to become stronger. If they can't stop them, the knights will probably suffer heavy losses this time. This is different from before. The previous few official knights were able to contain Steve, that was because Steve had just broken through, and they didn't kill him. Facing the minotaurs at this moment, the result is completely different. There are only a dozen official knights at present, but they have to resist 2 second-level minotaurs. The loss is almost visible to the naked eye. This made the 3 barons and the 2 pioneer lords anxious. And facing their anxiety, Thor did not answer. He didn't have time to answer. The ice life source in his body continued to burst out, blocking the second-level peak minotaurs in front of him. Even though his figure was constantly retreating, he was still resisting. Finally, in another collision, Thor suddenly felt something, a hint of joy appeared, and he turned his head instantly. He turned his head, and the second-level peak minotaur who was also fighting with him seemed to feel it as well, and his movements subconsciously stopped, and his eyes looked in the direction Thor was looking. And that was the moment when the 2 turned their heads. Boom. Rumble. The huge roar filled the entire eardrum, and at the same time, a long flood swept in from the end of the sight, covering the entire field of vision, and also took away everyone's mind. The flood roared, covering the sky and the sun. It carried unparalleled power and destroyed everything. The target was still the thousands of minotaurs trapped in the sea of AA fire. Chapter 88 Schematic Diagram of Flooding the 7 Armies. The protagonist ambushed 2 mountains in the lower reaches of the main river valley. The dam was filled with water. It was flood season again. The magic crystal cannon ignited the fierce oil, which restricted 4,000 ordinary minotaurs in place. 11 second-level minotaurs rushed up, and then Lyosh Assad opened the dam, which washed away 4,000 minotaurs. The remaining 11 second-level minotaurs were surrounded and killed on the mountain by the 8 great knights, more than 70 formal knights, 300 apprentice knights, and thousands of reserve knights of the main river valley. As for the flood that did not hit the protagonist's men, the reason was very simple. They were on the mountain. Chapter 89 The war ends. After a month of continuous rain and the gathering of the dam, the flood at this moment is undoubtedly extremely terrifying. After a distance of gathering, the flood almost turned into a raging force and instantly covered thousands of minotaurs, destroying everything along the way, whether it was the jungle or the building. And even ordinary first-level or even second-level monsters could hardly resist. Boom. In an instant, the sea of AA fire was instantly covered, and thousands of minotaurs were directly taken away by the flood. Covered. There was a first-level minotaur who wanted to resist. But the terrifying flood instantly destroyed its power and took its body away. And the place in front of them was directly turned into a swamp. Thousands of minotaurs had almost no resistance. Such a scene undoubtedly shocked everyone. Even on the side of the main valley knights, one figure after another couldn't help but widen their eyes. And after widening their eyes, a touch of joy inevitably spread out. Ha ha ha. Pape Lawrence laughed. At this moment, he didn't care that the silver armor was a little damaged, and he rushed up again with the knight's sword in hand. The others did the same. At this moment, the huge stone weighing on their hearts completely disappeared. Although the minotaurs were restrained, they were all a little nervous before. After all, they knew very well that the sea of fire could only be restrained for a while at most. Once those thousands of minotaurs rushed out, let alone them, even with the hidden power, they could not stop them at all. But at this moment, there was no need to consider it at all. The huge flood took away these minotaurs, which also meant that their threat was completely gone. Dirty minotaurs, come again. Baron Graydon also laughed and spoke. At this moment, the momentum of the main valley knights suddenly increased. In contrast, the eyes of the second-level minotaurs widened, and their breathing suddenly became heavy. Then a trace of anger inevitably spread in their hearts. Just as the main valley knights thought, they were also waiting for the minotaurs to rush out. As long as the minotaurs rushed out, these damn humans would be torn to pieces. But such a scene actually happened. How could they not be angry? Damn it. Boom. The breath of the second-level peak minotaur that Thor had restrained suddenly burst out, and the blood color burned directly at this moment. At this moment, it was unbelievable, and the anger was inevitably spreading, making it completely lose its mind at this moment. Thousands of minotaurs. But that was the sacrifice they were going to offer to the Titan god, but it was gone. At this moment, this second-level minotaur didn't care. The life force in the body was burning. The strength was constantly increasing. It was approaching the third level. Boom. A roar sounded. Thor's figure flew backwards. Even with the protection of the golden armor, at this moment he felt that his internal organs could not bear it. The powerful force was even going to penetrate the golden armor. However, Thor didn't care too much at this moment. Instead, a smile appeared on his face. He was waiting for this result. Imre. Genel. The words were spoken, and under the blessing of the life force, they were directly transmitted to the distance. In the distance. In the jungle. Two figures who had been waiting anxiously for a long time suddenly stood up. Kill. Kill. The voices of the two people rang out, and the next moment, a formal knight and a trainee knight rushed out of the jungle. Rushed to the battlefield. These were the dozens of formal knights who had been hiding before, and a large number of trainee knights. And Thor was waiting for this time. There were too many minotaurs. More than 4,000 minotaurs, including 13 peak minotaurs. Although the power of the main valley was not weak, it was difficult to resist it completely. Even if it was blocked, the loss would be extremely huge. So Thor's initial plan was to hide most of his strength, let the minotaurs relax their vigilance, and then use the flood from the dam to wash away thousands of minotaurs, and finally use most of the hidden knight's strength to encircle and suppress the minotaurs. Thousands of ordinary minotaurs were lost. It was impossible to stop them with just a dozen second-level minotaurs, unless third-level minotaurs could be born. But this was almost impossible. In fact, it was true. Even if the secret method was used, the attack only reached the third level for a short time, and the second-level peak minotaurs' aura quickly weakened. Even it was originally in the upper hand in the battle with Thor, but after Thor rushed forward, it was suppressed by Thor. It was like this, and the other minotaurs were the same. Even due to the participation of a large number of elite knights, the situation in which the 11 second-level minotaurs had the upper hand was instantly reversed. It was difficult for a dozen official knights to hold back 2 minotaurs, but 70 official knights, 300 apprentice knights, and 1,500 reserve knights were enough to completely surround and kill these 11 second-level minotaurs. The gap between the Grand Knight and the official knight is not as big as the gap between the Grand Knight and the Earth Knight. The gap between the first and second levels is also not that big. Under normal circumstances, 7 or 8 official knights can basically fight against a Grand Knight, and more than 10 people can be surrounded and killed against the second-level orcs. At this moment, there are 70 official knights, which means 70 first-level orcs, plus 8 Grand Knights, 8 second-level orcs. Not to mention 11 minotaurs, even the previous 13 can be easily dealt with. Boom. Rumble. The battle is further escalating. The 2 second-level minotaurs had almost no resistance and were killed instantly. Then came the next second-level minotaurs. Without the support of the Minotaur tribe, they could not stop it at all. And the time lasted less than an hour. The last second-level peak Minotaur also fell directly to the ground. The bright red blood flowed on the entire ground. Everyone was with an unconcealable joy. We won. We won. Pape Lawrence muttered to himself, his expression still slightly dazed. Yes, we won. Baron Grattan also spoke with emotion. Baron Valmy just smiled. Originally, in the eyes of the three barons, as long as they could stop the attack of the minotaurs this time, it would be enough. But they never thought that they not only stopped it, but they also won. Thousands of minotaurs were completely left in the main valley. They even killed a second-level minotaur with their own hands. That was a second-level minotaur. A second-level minotaur was enough to get 10 points of merit, and even getting the status of a baron only required 100 points of merit. At this moment, the number of second-level minotaurs they left behind reached 13. Chapter 90 Benefit Distribution. The fall of 11 second-level minotaurs represented the end of this war. Many people collapsed directly to the ground, especially the official knights who supported the war at the beginning, and the pioneer lords. No one knew how much pressure they faced at that time. Although they knew that Thor had ambushed people, and even saw Thor's ambush with their own eyes. But there were still more than 4,000 minotaurs. If they could not solve it, the more than 4,000 minotaurs could destroy them and the ambushed people. Many people even had the idea of escaping. In the end, they persisted. And the result was enough to satisfy all of them. This time, the invasion of the minotaurs was not only resisted, but also perfectly solved. More than 4,000 minotaurs, more than a dozen second-level minotaurs were all buried in their main valley. Such joy was almost difficult to conceal. The huge rock pressing on them also disappeared instantly. Everyone. It's time to clean up the battlefield. Thor chuckled, and then stood up and looked at the battlefield at the moment. It can be said that the battlefield has completely changed at this moment. Ahead, a river hundreds of meters wide appeared. Although the river water has calmed down, it is full of sand, trees, broken buildings, and minotaurs, as well as the corpses of various monsters and beasts. And the good depressions and fertile land along the way are completely covered by the river. But Thor didn't care too much about this. The unique environment of the main river valley makes the surrounding land suitable for farming. Most of it will take some time to reclaim. This is not a big problem. Accompanied by Thor's words, one by one, the pioneer lords nodded with a smile. Then everyone began to clean up the entire battlefield. There are actually not many left on the battlefield at the moment, only the 11 second-level peak minotaurs, and the others have long been covered by floods. It is also very simple to clean up. Thor also took advantage of the situation and arrived at the location of the second-level peak minotaur that he had fought with before. At this moment, blood stained the whole body of the minotaur. Several official knights of Eagle Ridge were groping. But soon, Thor noticed the waist of this minotaur. What is this? A hint of doubt appeared in his heart. But he still stepped forward and pulled out the parchment scroll that was half exposed on the chest of the minotaur. The parchment scroll was opened. On it was a map. Titan language. After looking at the map and the strange words on it, Thor shook his head. He didn't know Titan language. But after a slight hesitation, Thor still put the parchment scroll into his arms. And it was after he put it into his arms. The surroundings were quickly cleaned up. Then everyone cleaned up the surroundings again and began to return to Eagle Ridge. The war was over. The next step was undoubtedly the time to distribute the benefits. Although the battlefield was almost destroyed this time, a lot of good things were found on the dozen or so second-level minotaurs, especially the 3 peak second-level minotaurs. There were more than 300 second-level magic cores alone, and there was even a third-level magic core. Thor was shocked. But thinking about it, the previous Minotaur tribe was a third-level tribe, so it was not surprising that they had such a huge savings. And Thor was shocked. Others were even more so. Many people's breathing became heavy. After all, although the second-level magic core is not like the special magic beasts such as the butterfly fish and the pig beast, the value of one is only about 100 gold coins. But how many are there here? A full 300, which means a full 30,000 gold coins. Not to mention the third-level magic core, one of which is worth more than 10,000 gold coins. This means that the harvest at this moment exceeds 40,000 gold coins. This is 40,000 gold coins. For the entire Northland province, it is a huge fortune. Even if Marquis Lehman knew about it, he would probably be tempted. Not to mention, there are merit points. A second-level minotaur has 10 merit points, but there are 11 minotaurs here, and their merit points have reached 110 points, enough for a pioneer lord to be promoted to a baron. These are huge wealth. The eyes of the 5 pioneer lords all turned red. Some of them couldn't help themselves. If they hadn't seen Thor's strength. There are also restrictions on the contract. I'm afraid they couldn't help themselves. Thor is also aware of this. Eagle Ridge. In the castle. Everyone gathered together. Thor, Papilorans, Graydon, Valmy, and 2 other pioneer lords named Thatch and Jos Abi were all sitting in the hall. One figure after another looked straight at the pile of glittering magic cores in front of them. Sir Thor, you led us to defeat the Minotaur this time, so you can do this. After taking a deep look at the magic core, Jos Anubi looked back at Thor and spoke seriously. The others hesitated. But after a pause, they still didn't speak. At this moment, they could win against the Minotaur, and even they had to admit that it was Thor's credit. Otherwise, they couldn't even resist, let alone win. At this moment, everyone's fiery hearts couldn't help but cool down a bit. After all, in this situation, even if Thor took all of them, they could only hold back even if they had any opinions. One after another, their eyes gathered. Or flickering, or uneasy. Or nervous. Facing the eyes of these people, Thor naturally knew what they were thinking. He pondered for a moment, and then spoke. Everyone, if that's the case, then I won't be polite. As for the magic core, I only need the 3rd-level magic core, and I don't need the others, but I need all the merits of the Minotaur, how about it? The voice spoke, and the eyes looked at everyone. This. And listening to his words, everyone was stunned. Then several people's pupils widened, and they couldn't help but have a touch of joy. Obviously, what Thor said was far beyond their expectations. Sir Thor, are you telling the truth? Saki couldn't help but speak. Sir Thor, the great contribution this time is due to you, is this all? Pape Lawrence hesitated for a moment, but still spoke through gritted teeth. Yes, Sir Thor, you can get more. Baron Grattan also spoke. The others were either happy or silent. Thor shook his head after looking at them one by one, and then spoke again. Ladies and gentlemen, these are enough, and you have paid enough this time, so that's it. Compared to this, shouldn't the greatest wealth be the entire main valley? At this moment, we are the only ones left in the entire main valley. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 91 Benefit Distribution Part 2. Ladies and gentlemen, these are enough. You have paid enough this time. That's it. Compared to this, shouldn't the greatest wealth be the entire main valley? At this moment, we are the only ones left in the entire main valley. Thor's voice sounded, and this voice instantly pulled everyone's thoughts over, and at the same time, the eyes of the figures lit up. Sir Thor, you. Baron Valmy spoke subconsciously, but when he reached half of the words, he couldn't help but pursed his lips. Others were not much better at the moment. As a pioneer lord, the most important thing is the territory, the people, and his own strength and power. And if you want to make a distinction between these items, then the most important thing for the pioneer lord is strength, territory, and then the people and power. With strength, it is enough to control more and better territories, and only then will you have enough people and your own power. And what appeared in front of them at this moment is the almost emptied main valley. The large number of pioneer lords who fled meant that they also lost their own territories. Those were the territories that the pioneer lords had developed for several years or even more than 10 years. Moreover, they had not only one piece of territory, but dozens of pieces of territory, as well as various outputs in the territory. These were even more unimaginable values compared to these magic cores. After all, this was not a wild area. It was a truly developed territory. Even the 3 Baron Lords could not help but breathe heavily again at this moment. While everyone was breathing heavily and their eyes were shining, Thor waved his hand to signal. Soon Ryan came in. A map was also unfolded on the desk. Everyone, come and take a look. In the expectation and excitement of everyone, Thor chuckled. With his words, the 5 people quickly came to the front of the desk. Ryan, circle out the territory of the pioneer lords who abandoned the territory in the main river valley. Thor spoke softly. Yes. Ryan nodded quickly in response. Soon he picked up the quill pen and quickly circled out a piece of land. Densely packed, covering the entire main river valley. The main river valley, under the impact of the main river, formed a huge bay on it. The terrain is flat and the soil is good, which is very suitable for large-scale farming. There were originally 21 pioneer lords in the lower, middle, upper and western parts of the main river valley. Together with Mijiel Ridge, there are 22 in total. Now there are only 6 pioneer lords left. According to the laws of the kingdom, a lord who abandons his territory will be deprived of his lordship. Even if he pays a ransom, he cannot get back his territory. The kingdom will redistribute the territory. Now we, as pioneer lords who defeated the minotaurs, should get these territories. Thor spoke slowly, with a serious expression. Listening to his words and looking at the territories drawn by Ryan, the 5 people couldn't help but breathe heavier. They all looked a little bit uncontrollable. Sir Thor, how should this territory be divided? After taking a deep breath, Baron Valmy, who had been silent before, could not help but speak. As he spoke, eyes gathered on Thor. Everyone, Mijiel Ridge has just been built, and I don't need much. In addition, there are 5 mines in the entire main valley, including a medium-sized lime mine in the south, a medium-sized iron mine in the north, and 3 small iron mines. I don't need to participate in the medium-sized iron mine, small iron mine and lime mine, but I need this area, and I also need these territories to be developed. Baron Graydon, Baron Valmy, your territory needs the back, how about handing this area over to me? Thor spoke slowly, and then outlined the location of the dam, as well as Graydon and most of the 2 territories where Baron Valmy was located. Just kidding, since he is going to vigorously develop farming here, the dam must be in his own hands, even if the 2 have signed a contract. But he was still considering what method to use, and now he could take action with this opportunity. He also believed that the 2 would be willing. Although a medium-sized iron mine and 3 small iron mines could not produce mithril iron as continuously as large iron mines, the value of a large amount of iron ore was not low, and it meant that they had an extra output. This was indeed the case. Okay. Sir Thor, we can agree. Baron Valmy gritted his teeth and agreed first. Baron Valmy agreed, and Baron Graydon finally agreed. As for the other people, although they were a little tempted, they finally held back. The benefits this time were big enough, and these did not have much impact. After dividing his own territory, Thor began to help the other people divide the territory. Compared with his own territory and security needs, the division of other people is undoubtedly much simpler. First of all, as just said, the benefits this time are big enough. Enough to meet the needs of everyone. Secondly, in this extraordinary world, one's own strength is enough to decide everything. Plus the merits of this war of conquest, it is enough to be used as a criterion for judgment. It was also completed very quickly. In the end, the 3 barons gained the most. Baron Valmy gained a medium-sized iron mine and the territories of 2 pioneer lords, Baron Graydon gained 3 small iron mines and 3 pioneer lord territories, and the 2 territories gave up part of their southern territories to Thor. Baron Pape gained 5 pioneer lord territories and a medium-sized lime mine. Saki and Jozabi gained 3 pioneer lord territories respectively, and Thor gained another 4 pioneer lord territories. He didn't need the mines, the value of lime mines was not high, and the iron mines he owned were large iron mines, which were much more valuable than medium and small ones. Moreover, if he handed over these 2 mines, they would only flow back in the end. After all, he owned the goblins and mastered the most critical step of the industrial chain. In comparison, the territory was what he needed most. At this moment, the entire middle of the main river valley and a large part of the upper reaches were in his hands. On the one hand, it could prevent others from flooding his 7 armies, and on the other hand, his territory would not have any problems in the subsequent expansion. And they are completely connected. Not to mention now, even if he becomes a baron, there is enough room for development. It can be said that in the next 3 years, he does not need to consider the problem of space. As for the follow-up, it can continue to extend to the east of the northern province, and even to the north and south, and even to the west. There is a lot of space to extend. The current map of the main valley after the division of power, how about my own drawing, ha 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 ha. Chapter 92 Main Alliance. Of course, the distribution of territory is only an initial division. If you want to truly make it your own territory, you must first obtain the recognition of the northern province and also develop it. The former is fine. You only need to report the war with the orcs truthfully, and you can naturally obtain the ownership of these territories. But the latter is not a simple matter. Development is always the most difficult thing. It requires a large number of manpower, a large amount of gold coins, and materials. However, everyone is not too worried about this. After all, after defeating the Tauran tribe, they have enough time to develop slowly. Moreover, most of these newly expanded territories have been developed for several years, or even more than 10 years, and it is much easier to develop them again. The 5 pioneering lords, even the 2 pioneering lords who are not barons, have accumulated enough in the northern province for many years. As for Thor, this time, as long as he can be canonized as a baron, he will definitely be able to get support from his family again, and it will not be a problem to develop it at that time. This is undoubtedly a happy ending for everyone. The banquet was held at Eagle Ridge. Everyone was in a carnival. In front of the huge bonfire. Baron Graydon raised his glass. Everyone, toast to our victory. The sound of laughter rang out. Cheers to victory. Cheers. Voices spoke one after another. Everyone raised their glasses. Then drank it all. After drinking it, Thor put down his glass and looked at the 3 barons and the remaining 2 pioneer lords. Sir Thor, why not speak directly? Papaloran's heart moved, looked at Thor, and a curious voice sounded. Along with his words, everyone also stopped their actions and looked at Thor. Everyone, the northern province has a wider world and richer resources. Fighting each other is the most foolish choice. We can unite to face the outside world, just like this time. I propose that we can form an alliance with each other. To deal with the next pioneering war and the future kingdom war. Thor's words sounded. As his voice opened, the figures in front of the campfire stopped moving. Some people frowned, some people pondered. Some people's eyes lit up. Everyone, you should know that it is less than 3 years away from the next kingdom war, and if we can grasp the kingdom war well, it may be enough for us to become viscounts or even higher. This is our opportunity, and it is also our family's opportunity. As I said, the northern province has a wider world and richer resources. We can get more by uniting, and it is enough for us to get more capital before the kingdom. Thor looked at the expressions of the crowd and spoke again. Sir Thor, you are right. It is true that we can gain more by uniting together. I agree. Baron Graydon pondered for a moment, then nodded in agreement. I agree, too. The northern province is huge. That is our world. Josabi also nodded and spoke. Ha ha ha, since both of you agree, I, Pape Lawrence, naturally agree. Pape Lawrence also spoke. I agree. Valmy also spoke. In the end, everyone's eyes were focused on Thatch. Sir Thor, please forgive me, but if we are allies, do we need to obey your orders? After a slight hesitation, Thatch couldn't help but speak, but he felt a little uneasy after he finished speaking. Of course not. The alliance is just to deal with crises and to be united against the outside world. It does not need to obey my orders. Thor smiled and shook his head. Then I agree too. Thatch nodded quickly. The consent of the 5 pioneer lords also represents the agreement of this alliance resolution. Then they discussed the alliance-related matters. As a relatively loose alliance, there are not many things to consider. Thor did not force it too much. You need to eat one bite at a time, and you also need to walk one step at a time. At this moment, he is not even a baron. He does not think that once he stands up, everyone will obey his orders. In fact, if it were not for the contract, and his successful solution to the Minotaur this time, and the strength he showed in Eagle Ridge, this alliance would not have appeared. Even the alliance without binding force is the same. Those who can become pioneer lords and survive are not weak in talent, strength, and ability. Some things, even if there is no need to say more, even just a beginning, everyone understands what is going on. The reason why they are willing at this moment is that they don't mind looking at the future. And for Thor, this is also what he hopes for. After all, when he gradually showed stronger strength and could bring greater benefits, these people would definitely submit to him. The night gradually passed. In the next few days, the 6 pioneer lords, including Thor, were discussing alliance matters. Until the 5th day, the entire alliance was finally finalized. The alliance stipulates that when the parties to the alliance encounter danger, they need to send forces to provide assistance, and trade exchanges between them are smooth. In addition, a certain level of information sharing is required within the alliance. As expected, this is not a binding alliance order. But it is a beginning. This means that the 6 surviving pioneer lords in the main valley have begun to carry out preliminary integration. This is something that has never happened in the entire main valley, or even the entire Northland province. After all, in the Northland province, the pioneer lords are not friendly, but competitive. In the Pioneer War, because of interests, there are many conflicts between each other. And as long as there is a conflict, it must be accompanied by hatred. Under the interweaving of hatred and interests, it is almost difficult to reach mutual trust, let alone the unity of all the pioneer lords in a region. But at this moment, the main valley did it. It can be expected that after this moment, the entire Northland province will inevitably change. But at this moment, no one knows it yet. Most of the entire Northland province is still in relative chaos. The Tauren tribe crossed the defense area of the Kingdom Knights, which is not an accident or an isolated case. In fact, in the northern part of the entire Northland province, many orc tribes have crossed the defense line over this period of time. The Tauren were solved by Thor and the pioneering lords of the main valley, but there was no such situation in other places, and the result can be imagined. Tulip Kingdom Map. It will be available tomorrow morning, and it will explode at that time. Chapter 93. Remarks on the release. As for the update, please rest assured of the next update. On the first day of the release, 4,000 words per copy, guaranteed 4 copies, that is 16,000. I wanted to burst out 20,000, but I had to go back to my hometown on the day of the release to visit my grandmother, and I didn't save any drafts before, so I can only do this. As for the follow-up, I won't say much. I will update 10,000 words a day as a guaranteed update, and burst out for a month first, so that everyone can see my sincerity. I also hope that everyone can support the author. The follow-up will be more exciting. In addition, there will be more. At present, there are 2,800 followers and nearly 30,000 collections. Let's not say 1/10, take 2,000 subscriptions as the minimum. Since the additional chapter is 4,000 words, that is, for every additional 300 subscriptions, 1 copy will be added. In addition, if you give rewards, the helmsman will give 1 copy and the leader will give 5 copies, ha ha ha, this should not be available, just write it casually. Chapter 94 Report, The Unexpected Marquis Lehman. At this moment, the entire Northland province is in chaos. The Knights' defense lines are being attacked everywhere. A large number of orc tribes rushed into the Northland province, causing the entire Northland province to be in relative chaos. The pioneering territories began to be destroyed everywhere, and a large number of pioneering lords were also fleeing. There is no way. Compared with the second-level orc tribes, the human pioneering lords, except for a few powerful lords, can't compete at all. And the destruction and escape of the pioneering lords led to more pioneering lords fleeing. Some territories that have been built for a long time may still need to be considered, but some newly built pioneering lords have almost no hesitation. And this undoubtedly caused a larger range of chaos. Especially in the eyes of the Eagle Knights, it is even more so when they still choose not to intervene. Of course, Thor and others don't know about this at the moment. The main river valley is close to the Northland Glacier and the Orc tribes, which is somewhat separated from the mainstream pioneering Knights territories. Information from the north is better, but information from the west may not be understood. After they dealt with the Tauren and discussed the alliance, then they began to prepare to report the results of this battle. As the front line of the war with the orcs, the northern province is enough to gain a lot of merits in the war with the orcs. Not only can the 11 second-level Tauren gain hundreds of merits, but also defeating the orc tribe can also gain certain merits. These need to be reported to Marquis Lyman. Marquis Lyman will verify the entire battle situation, and will give merits after the verification is completed. In this regard, the 6 pioneering lords, including Thor, are very concerned. Soon after the alliance ended, a battle report and the heads of the 11 second-level Tauren were taken to Lucerne City by Ryan. Lucerne City. In the huge and gorgeous Marquis Manor. A man who looked only middle-aged frowned slightly, and his figure was walking back and forth. He is the owner of this manor, the well-deserved king of the northern province, and one of the top nobles in the kingdom, Marquis Lyman. As a Marquis Lyman who rose step by step from military merit and is now over 70 years old, he is actually not very satisfied with his territory. Compared with ruling the vast northern province, he prefers the Frost Moon Province or the South Moon Province. After all, after decades of fighting, he is very clear about the horror of the orc tribe, which is not something that the Tulip Kingdom can deal with alone, let alone him as a new marquis. Once the orc war breaks out, the entire northern province will inevitably suffer a shock, and the loss of his territory will be unimaginable. But the kingdom's territory had already been completely divided. In the entire kingdom, except for the Northland province, it was impossible to allocate him a marquisate, not to mention the marquisate. Even if it was possible, no province would be willing to let him, a marquis, step in and share another piece of the pie. In this case, he had no other choice except the Northland province. In the end, he could only accept it helplessly and hope that the orc war would not break out so early. But no one expected that the situation would take a sharp turn for the worse this year. A large number of orcs actually attacked the entire northern direction. Even the kingdom's Earth Dragon Knights suffered an impact. As for his Eagle Knights, even in less than 3 months, the losses were extremely heavy. My lord, do we need to ask the kingdom for help? The leader of the Eagle Knights next to him asked Marquis Lyman with trepidation. I'm afraid we don't need this. The Earth Dragon Knights should have asked for help long ago. What's the situation? Can you confirm that the orcs are preparing to start a war? Marquis Lyman shook his head, and his figure stopped walking back and forth. He looked at his knight commander, and after a slight pause, he asked with hesitation. It's not certain yet. But it shouldn't be a war. The behemoths haven't made any moves. Currently, only the Tauren, werewolf, and some second and third level orcs are taking action. But there are too many. Many third level orcs have been found on the east, west, and south sides, involving a large number of the Eagle Knights, so that the second level orcs can't be dealt with at all. The leader of the Eagle Knights paused for a moment, shook his head, and spoke softly. And after listening to his words, Marquis Lyman breathed a sigh of relief. If it is really an orc war, he may be in big trouble this time. If not, there is still a way to deal with it. Marquis Lyman had a headache. The orc tribe attacked the northern province, causing a large number of territories to be destroyed and the lords to flee. This was not a good thing for him. Since the development of the northern province, fewer and fewer people are willing to become pioneer lords, especially the descendants of great nobles. After all, the casualty rate in the northern province is too high and the investment rate is too low. Even if they are willing to become pioneer lords, most of them are wandering knights. Wandering knights only have a few gold coins, which is incomparable to the descendants of great nobles and those lords who have already completed a certain amount of development. Not to mention this time's impact, it can be expected that there will be fewer great nobles who want to enter the northern province for development in the future. This means that he will lose a large amount of gold coin income. How can this not give him a headache? However, he also knows that this is not the time to worry. First, he has to make sure that the Eagle Knights will be fine, so that he can care about these things. I know. Don't worry about those for the time being. You can temporarily let the knights evacuate to Chuya territory to block the orcs, and call in 300 magic crystal cannons, 1000 second level magic cores, and 23rd level magic cores from Lucerne City to Chuya territory. Marquis Lyman gritted his teeth and made a decision. Yes. The leader of the Eagle Knights was a little shocked, but soon a hint of joy appeared, and he quickly responded. With this resource, the loss of the knights will be reduced as much as possible. These guys must be crazy. They dare to attack human territory without the leadership of the Behemoth clan. Marquis Lyman couldn't help cursing. However, while the two were talking, a figure quickly walked over from a distance. My lord Marquis. The figure walked over and spoke respectfully. What happened? Marquis Lyman's eyebrows jumped when he saw the visitor. The visitor was the affairs officer of Lucerne City. Since he almost ignored him, the affairs officer rarely came to him. Lord Marquis, it is the report of the arrival of Main Valley, which needs your personal approval. The affairs officer of Lucerne City spoke respectfully. Main Valley. Didn't I tell them to resist as much as possible? Marquis Lyman had a headache and frowned as he spoke. Lord Marquis, this is not a request for help. It's a battle report. They seem to have defeated a second-level Tauran tribe, and Lord Marquis needs to verify it. The affairs officer of Lucerne City listened to Marquis Lyman's words. He obviously knew that Lyman had misunderstood, and hurried to explain. What? You said that the second-level Tauran tribe was defeated. Marquis Lyman was stunned for a moment, turned his head and looked at the affairs officer of Lucerne City. Yes. They also sent 11 second-level Minotaur heads. The Lucerne City affairs officer nodded and spoke again to confirm. It seems that those pioneer lords are still quite good. Let me see. After being stunned, Marquis Lyman couldn't help but smile and quickly signaled the Lucerne City affairs officer to hand him the battle report. The Lucerne City affairs officer quickly handed it over. Marquis Lyman took the battle report. He looked at the content. Soon, the smile on his face became stronger again. The situation was even better than he had imagined. The pioneer lords of the main valley actually took the initiative to unite against the orc tribe. Not only that, they also successfully defeated a second-level Minotaur tribe of more than 4,000 and killed all the second-level Minotaurs. If such news is true, it will undoubtedly give a boost to the chaotic northern province at the moment. Ha 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 ha. Not bad, not bad. Frankie, how about this? You take the kingdom inspector to the main valley to verify it. Also prepare for the Baron enthronement ceremony. It seems that our northern province will give birth to another Baron. Marquis Lyman chuckled. After a few months of bad mood, this time it has improved a little. If this battle report is true, then the situation in the entire northern province may change. More importantly, there has been no new Baron in the northern province for more than 3 years. The kingdom's requirement is that as long as a small town can be developed in the northern province and has no less than 5,000 people, it can be enthroned as a kingdom baron and become a new noble. It is precisely because of this that countless knights have flocked to the northern province in the past 20 years. But the result is not too good. In the vast northern province, only 56 barons have been enthroned in the past 20 years. You should know that there are probably no less than 300 viscounts in the Frost Moon province alone, and there may even be thousands of barons. In the entire Northland province, there have been only 56 barons in the past 20 years, and that is a total. Now there seem to be only 36 surviving barons. As for the remaining 20, you can imagine the outcome. Especially in the past 3 years, with the constant turmoil in the Northland, no baron has been canonized for more than 3 years. This is also the reason why fewer and fewer nobles go to the Northland province to become pioneering lords. If a new baron can be born in this situation, it will undoubtedly stimulate the enthusiasm of those nobles to explore again. This is undoubtedly a good thing for the kingdom, and it is also the same for Marquis Lyman. Yes. The Lucerne City Affairs officer nodded and agreed directly. Soon, Lucerne City took action. 1 day later, Frankie, with the kingdom's inspector and a large number of people, set off towards the main valley. Main Valley. Thor and others received the news quickly. Then the whole Eagle Ridge was in an uproar. Everyone's expression was filled with joy. Especially the knights. Following Thor to the Northland province to become pioneer knights, they were nervous, and hesitant at first. However, as Thor moved from one victory to another, their strength and gains were constantly improving. This kind of hesitation, nervousness gradually turned into expectation and yearning for the future. However, no matter how much they expected and yearned, before Thor was canonized as a baron, it could only be yearning and expectation. Only when Thor was canonized as a baron and gradually moved higher, it would be the time of real harvest. After all, this means that they will also have the hope of becoming nobles. And this is the existence that countless knights dream of. Eagle Ridge's carnival. Everyone is full of hope. Even civilians are like this. In the castle, Thor got the news and couldn't help but feel excited. It has been almost a year since he arrived in the Northland province. During this year, even with the help of the Golden Finger, only he himself knew the difficulties and hardships he had experienced. At this moment, it was finally time to harvest. As long as he passes the review of the kingdom's inspector, he can be canonized as a baron. He will also obtain the status of a noble in the true sense, rather than the current temporary status of a noble. In this world, the gap between nobles and non-nobles is almost like a chasm. Even temporary nobles are far from real nobles. The rights and interests they enjoy are completely different. Not to mention other things. Before, if he wanted to attack other noble territories and occupy them, he needed to pay a certain amount of territory purchase rights to the kingdom. Just like at this moment, those territories actually belonged to him, but they did not belong to him in name. If he was not a baron, he would still need to pay gold coins, but if he was a baron, he would not need this step and could go directly to Lucerne City to express ownership of these places. In addition, there are other differences. For example, temporary nobles can only be in the North Province. Except for the North Province, other places do not recognize them, while nobles are actually recognized even by the entire human continent. Although this world is a kingdom system, it is more strictly an aristocratic republic system. The nobles are the masters of this world. The most important thing is whether or not you can become a noble. Chapter 95 Sensational Lucerne City, First Order Request. Outside Eagle Ridge. A large number of people arrived in great force. Is Eagle Ridge ahead? Is it really surprising? Looking at the golden rice fields in front of him and the neat and dense buildings, Frank Corrado was a little surprised. When he received a request from Marquis Lehman for verification, he was a little surprised. He naturally already knows what the situation is like in the Northland province at this moment. In this turbulent moment, someone actually achieved the merit of being promoted to baron. And when the relevant information about Dressrosa was sent, he was undoubtedly even more surprised. It only took less than a year for that pioneer knight to enter the Northland province and become a pioneer lord. In just 1 year, he was awarded the title of baron. He couldn't remember how long it had been since he had encountered one in the entire Northland province. But after knowing that he was the descendant of Dressrosa, he immediately felt relieved. It was just this relief that when he saw the scene in Eagle Ridge at this moment, he couldn't help but be surprised again. Such Eagle Ridge did not look like it had only been developed for 1 year, even if some pioneer lords had developed it for more than 3 years. It is difficult to reach such a scale. Even if he is the descendant of Dressrosa, this is extremely surprising. In this current situation, assessment of the kingdom. Maybe it's enough to meet the requirements. And when he was unexpected. In Eagle Ridge, Thor took Steve, and Peros and a large group of people had already arrived. Officer Frankie. Prosecutor Frank Corrado, welcome both of you. Thor spoke with a smile, and the figure got off the horse and performed a knight's etiquette towards the two of them. Sir Thor, you're welcome. I'll need to bother you for a few days. Frank Corrado spoke with a smile. Facing Thor, he did not show any arrogance. Although he is the prosecutor of the kingdom and also belongs to the nobility, he does not dare to look down upon this kind of pioneering nobility. 2 of the 3 great dukes in the Tulip Kingdom rose from pioneer lords. Not to mention that Marquis Lehman himself was a pioneer lord. Prosecutor, you are serious. The banquet has been prepared in the castle. Thor smiled and nodded, and then led the 2 of them into Eagle Ridge. After stepping into Eagle Ridge, Frank Corrado could feel the difference in the entire Eagle Ridge. As the kingdom's prosecutor, he has stayed in the entire Northland province for 5 years. In the past 5 years, he has seen many territories, but no territory is as full of vitality as Eagle Ridge. Along the way, whether they were serfs, knights, or free people, they unconsciously saluted where Thor was. Frank Corrado could clearly see that the faces of those people were full of enthusiasm for Thor, the Lord. That is something that can only be seen in the most loyal guardian knights. But in the entire Eagle Ridge, everyone is like this. Even those serfs who should be numb are like this. It's incredible. Let Frank Corrado rate Thor a little higher. The banquet begins. Pieces of delicious food were brought up. Frank Corrado talks to Thor. The smiles on both of their faces never disappeared. The night gradually passed. The next day comes. Frank Corrado, accompanied by Pelos, set out to verify this time of the war. This is not very complicated. Especially the battle with the Minotaur was extremely obvious, so it would be even simpler. Just less than 3 days. Frank Corrado has thoroughly verified it. Eagle Castle. My goddess of life, Lord Thor, I have to be surprised for you. Those are thousands of Tauren, and there are even 13 second-level Tauren among them. Even the Marquise's flying eagle knights may have some trouble, but you actually solved it. Those other damn cowards would have already escaped. Frank Corrado spoke with emotion in his voice. God knows how surprised he was when he checked. Those were thousands of Tauren, enough to sweep away 99% of the noble lords in the entire Northland province. The result was solved. This can even be said to be a miracle. Viscount Frank Corrado, it's just luck. And this is the territory given to us by the kingdom. As lords, we need to be responsible for our territory and its people. Even if there is a slight possibility, we cannot give up. Thor chuckled, shook his head, and spoke seriously. Makes sense. Lord Thor, you are a qualified lord, and I also believe that you will become a qualified baron. 15 days later, the baron's canonization ceremony will be held in Lucerne City. You need to arrive 3 days in advance. Frank Corrado nodded, and then spoke solemnly to Thor. Thank you. I will definitely arrive early. Thor also nodded, feeling a little excited, and his words immediately became serious. Goodbye, Lord Thor. Frank Corrado waved his hand and then left Eagle Ridge with his troops. And watched Frank Corrado and others leave. Until it disappeared from sight. Lord. Grown-ups. Steve, Ren, and Perlos spoke one after another, and at this moment, his eyes could not help but show a touch of excitement. Get ready to see if Eagle Ridge needs to purchase anything else. Also, Ren, please hand over what you have in hand. We will set off for Lucerne City in 3 days. In addition, Steve, you have rearranged the manpower to garrison the iron mine. Pelos, I will leave the matter of Eagle Ridge to you. If you have any questions, you can contact Baron Pape and the other 2 barons. Thor's heart was pounding. 1 year, 1 whole year, he had finally reached this point. How could he not be excited? Even this excitement affects the words he speaks. Of course, impact is impact. Thor quickly made arrangements. The war is over. Over the next few days. Some matters in Eagle Ridge have also been dealt with. At this time, it is natural to resume production. Steve is the perfect fit. As for Perlos, as the Grand Knight, he is currently in charge of the Young Eagle Knights. He stays in Eagle Ridge. On the one hand, he can continue to train the Young Eagle Knights, and on the other hand, he can serve as the guarantee of Eagle Ridge. Yes. The 3 people responded quickly. Didn't he have much of a problem with that? Even though Steve and Perlos both wanted to go to Lucerne City together, they also knew that the territory was the most important thing for Thor. As great knights, they cannot leave now. Eagle Ridge takes action. 3 days later, Thor took Ren and 20 official knights and set off in a mighty manner. Target Lucerne City. 7 days later, Frank Corrado returns to Lucerne City. The news was quickly reported to Marquis Lehman. Oh, what a surprise. The descendants of Dressrosa will never disappoint. Go ahead and let the news out. Marquis Lehman couldn't help but sigh, and then spoke to a knight next to him. Yes. The knight responded and quickly left. Soon. A surprising piece of news spread in Lucerne City. After 3 years, in Lucerne City, Marquis Lehman will once again hold the canonization ceremony in person. A baron will be born again in the province of Northland. The news came like a whirlwind. Lucerne City at this moment. Due to the turmoil in the Northland province, a large number of pioneer lords fled and a large number of people gathered. The city of Lucerne was a little crowded. What was even more uncomfortable was the depressing atmosphere in Lucerne City. The loss of territory and the crisis of the orcs, all this makes many people unable to breathe. At this moment, this piece of news was like a magic crystal cannon bombarding the calm lake surface, setting off huge waves. After all, everyone ran away and lost their territory, but now someone has been canonized as a baron. How can this not be shocking? Oh my god, the kingdom assessment hasn't started yet. Goddess of life, is there something wrong with my ears? My goddess, is it a meritorious service? But the baron's merit requires 100 points, and the second-level orc only has 10 points. How is this possible? There was a mixture of voices, and many people were stunned and in disbelief. A total of more than 50 barons were born in the Northland province. Although many of them became barons through meritorious service, that was before. In the entire Northland province, no baron has been born in the past 3 years. The kingdom's assessment does not even meet the requirements. At this moment, someone suddenly appeared. How could they not be shocked? Amid these emotions, new news swept through again. That was information about the Battle of Main Valley. As soon as such news came out, many people's eyes widened. The Second Order Tauren turned out to be a Second Order Tauren tribe, And it was not an ordinary second-order Tauran tribe, but the second-order remnants of a third-order Tauran tribe, which was solved by that pioneer lord. How on earth is this done? I also want to know, who can tell me how to do it? The one I know who will be canonized is Terdressrosa, a descendant of Dressrosa. Terdressrosa. Dressrosa's descendant, These damn upper-class nobles, not only do they occupy the most fertile land in the kingdom, they also want to occupy our opportunities. Ha ha ha, Monty, do you want to laugh me to death and take advantage of your opportunity? Isn't your territory still in the hands of those dirty green goblins? Ha ha ha, Green Goblin, no way, there's no one who can't even defeat the Green Goblin. PFF'd ha ha ha. Robert, you are seeking death. Ha ha ha, I'm just looking for death. Do you dare to go to the duel stage with me? By the way, I forgot, your noble status has been banned this year, you seem to be ineligible. Ha ha ha. The news swept across like a whirlwind, making the entire Lucerne city completely lively. It also made the name Terdressrosa resound throughout Lucerne city for the first time. A baron. First baron in 3 years. And he is also the descendant of Dressrosa. Even some noble lords who were not escaping paid attention to this name. Terdressrosa. Tono, you should be very interested in hearing this news. In a tavern, a middle-aged man chuckled. Another place. In the room, a young man frowned. Dressrosa. What a blessing. Does Marquis Lehman agree to our proposal? The young man spoke, then looked at the attendant knight next to him, and spoke solemnly. Sir, the Marquis has agreed, but you need to ensure that all the orc tribes within 500 miles to the west of the northern autumn leaf territory are cleared within 3 months. The squire knight spoke respectfully. 500 miles. I see. Go and answer Marquis Lehman and say we agree. The young man hesitated, but still nodded in agreement. The range of 500 miles is indeed very large, but if he can do it, he will definitely be able to obtain the qualification of baron. As a pioneer lord who had just arrived in the Northland province and a scion of the Marquis family, he was thrown here by his eldest brother. He was not in the mood to slowly build up his territory. Yes. The knight squire responded and left quickly. And the cyclone in Lucerne city is still attacking. Some people marveled, some people sighed. Some people are envious. There are also haters. The imminent appearance of a baron caused the entire city of Lucerne to appear extremely ups and downs. Marquis Lehman ignored this. In contrast, the entire turbulent Northland province is what he needs to consider. Fortunately, this kind of northern province was only an attack by orcs, not a war, which allowed many people to develop lords, and even noble lords saw the opportunity to gain merit, and the situation did not get out of control. After all, compared to the orc war, this kind of orc attack is not fatal. Under normal circumstances, the kingdom can suppress it, and in this process, they can obtain a certain amount of merit. In the kingdom, if you want to be promoted to a noble title, the only thing you need is meritorious service. Obtaining a baron requires 100 merit points, a viscount requires 1,000 points, and an earl requires 100,000 merit points. Merit, even for a viscount, is a huge temptation, let alone a baron and a pioneer lord. These pioneering lords who dare to go to the Northland province and have certain strength will not give up any opportunity. They may even take the initiative to join in. While joining in the extermination of the orcs, he also didn't mind cleaning up the pioneering lords around him. This one is overdone and introduces the background. Chapter 96. Become a noble from today. When the enthusiasm was rising in Lucerne city, 10 days later, 5 days before the enthronement ceremony, Thor arrived in Lucerne city with Ryan and 20 official knights. Compared to the previous time, at this moment, Lucerne city is undoubtedly a bit more lively, even comparable to the auction. But compared to the past, most of the pioneering lords were excited and smiling. This time, the smiles on most people's faces have disappeared. In return, they are heavy and worried. As time goes by, the situation in the entire northern province has not improved too much, especially in the northern region, where another baron's territory has been destroyed. This is the third baron's territory destroyed in the past 3 months. You know, in the past 3 years, there have been no so many barons' territories destroyed at one time. But this time, it was only 3 months. And this is just a baron's territory. The number of territories destroyed by ordinary pioneering lords has reached a situation that makes people's scalps numb. Even some pioneer lords and baron lords who were not affected were worried. It seems that the situation is more pessimistic than expected. Looking at the expressions of the crowd, Thor sighed softly. Before leaving, Lyosh Assad completed another trade and brought back some relevant information. Thor naturally had some understanding. But now it seems that this situation is more difficult than he imagined. Sir, do you need me to inquire about it? Ryan asked Thor softly. Okay, you go and find out. Thor pondered for a moment, then nodded and agreed. Understood. Ryan nodded, then rode away. Thor led his men and horses to continue entering the city. After entering the city, Thor could feel the heavy atmosphere even more. Step forward. Thor looked at the figures one after another, and his thoughts were flowing. Unconsciously, his figure came to the place where he had stayed before. This place had already been purchased by him. Checking in was also very simple at this moment. Not long after Thor checked in, Ryan returned. My lord. Ryan said respectfully. What's the situation? Thor asked, looking at Ryan who was walking back with a worried look on his face. My lord, I have understood it clearly. It is said that the Earth Dragon Knights of the kingdom have been attacked by 5 third-level orc tribes. In addition, the Flying Eagle Knights are said to be facing 2 third-level orc tribes. There are more than 12 orc tribes in the north, and 7 in the west. These are only the ones that have appeared so far. Although most of them are only second-level or even first-level orc tribes, they still caused the destruction of a large number of noble territories. Ryan spoke in a deep voice and told the news he had just heard. Compared with the information obtained by Lyosh, the information obtained in Lucerne City is undoubtedly more. Just such news, even Thor couldn't help but frown. The Dragon Knights, as the most elite knights in the kingdom, are extremely powerful. The Eagle Knights are the most elite force of Marquis Lyman, and their strength is also not weak. Both of them were hit at this moment, and they couldn't even draw out their strength. The sensation caused by this is already big enough. Not to mention that there are 12 orc tribes in the north of the northern province and 7 in the west, which is already 19. Even if these 19 orc tribes are just ordinary first level, as long as they are not weak chickens like cowardly goblins, they will definitely cause a huge impact on the human territory. Not to mention, this is not just a first-level orc tribe, there are also second-level orc tribes, and there may even be a damaged third-level orc tribe like the Tauren tribe they encountered. The crisis is indeed greater than he imagined. If things go wrong, most of the northern nobles can be destroyed this time. After all, these pioneering lords, except for a few powerful lords, have no ability to compete with a second-level orc tribe. And this is not a good thing for Thor. If he wants to develop, the most important thing is to have a relatively stable environment. Although the northern province cannot be truly stable, it cannot be so turbulent. Is there any action from Marquis Lyman? Thor frowned and asked again. At this moment, he can only hope that the Marquis will take care of something. Although he didn't care much before, it is impossible for him to ignore such a matter that concerns the stability of the other party's territory. Marquis Lyman seems to have invited many powerful noble lords to clear out the orc tribes in various parts of the northern province. In addition, it is said that the Flying Eagle Knights of 500 people were dispatched to Chuya territory. The others are not known at present. Ryan nodded and then told the information he had obtained. The noble lords were invited to clear out. Thor raised his eyebrows, a little surprised. He didn't expect that there were noble lords who dared to clear out the orc tribe. The existence of the Tauren made him understand the power of the orc tribe. Even though an average second-tier orc tribe is unlikely to be as powerful as a Tauren tribe, it is still not something an average Baron Lord can handle. After all, a Baron Lord has at most 2 great knights, and most of them are just 1 great knight. A second-level orc tribe, no matter how weak it is estimated to have 2 second-level orcs, or even 3, or even more. In addition to ordinary orcs, except for the cowardly goblins who are naturally weak, ordinary orcs, even if they have not reached the first level, are not something that ordinary people can deal with. It is obvious that some pioneer lords in the northern province are much stronger than he imagined. But it was only a surprise, and Thor soon felt relieved. You must know that the Dressrosa family is only a 300-year-old earl family, and the longest noble family in the entire tulip has been nearly 1,000 years. Even if they are both earls, the earl family of 700 or 800 years is completely different from the earl family of 300 years, not to mention that there are marquises and dukes. The resources they have are extremely huge. In this case, even if they are also pioneer lords, what they get will be far beyond imagination. It is not surprising that some pioneering lords have the wealth and strength to reach the Viscount, or even exceed the Viscount. Just like the idiot of the Emerson family before, he has two great knights around him. What about others? The gap between people is sometimes destined from birth. All roads lead to Rome, but some people are born in Rome, and the end of their lifelong struggle is mostly just the starting point for others. In this era of relatively solidified classes, it is undoubtedly more obvious. Thoughts flow, and thoughts are quickly suppressed. The night gradually passed. When the early morning came, the familiar mechanical system prompt sound rang again. Daily intelligence updated. The night passed. A new day arrived. And with the arrival of a new day, it was also the time when Thor was about to be canonized as a baron, and a piece of news once again swept the entire city of Lucerne like a whirlwind. During this period of clearing, Lord Wilmore Barrow and Lord Timur Watson in the northern part of the northern province defeated the orc tribe and made great contributions in the war against the orcs. They have won enough merits and will also be canonized as barons at the canonization ceremony 4 days later. This time, 3 barons will be born in the entire northern province at once. It is also the first time that 3 barons have been born in these 3 years. The news once again shocked the whole city. Even Thor got the information quickly. Timur Watson, Wilmore Barrow, the Watson family, and the Barrow family. Thor raised his eyebrows, but he was not too surprised. The Watson family and the Barrow family are the most prominent marquis families in the kingdom. Naturally, the resources they have are not comparable to the Dressrosa family. Not to mention the Dressrosa family, even Marquis Raymond is far behind them. Before this, the reason why they were not canonized as barons was simply because they did not have enough time and did not have enough opportunities to gain merit. At this moment, with the Northland orcs ready to move, it undoubtedly became their opportunity. For other pioneering lords, even noble lords, the orc tribe is a huge threat, but for them, it is undoubtedly just merit, at least when they do not have to face the powerful orc tribe. This is also the main reason why they can quickly obtain merit points enough to be canonized as barons in a short period of time. And this undoubtedly made Thor a little moved. At this moment, his strength is not weak, coupled with the main alliance. Even if his strength is different from that of this kind of top noble pioneering lord, it is probably not too far behind. The other party can rely on this method to gain enough merit, so he seems to be able to do so. In particular, he also has a daily intelligence system, which can not only avoid danger, but may also gain more. Of course, these thoughts only appeared for a moment, and were soon suppressed by him. What he needs to consider at present is not this, but to complete the canonization ceremony. Only after completing the canonization ceremony can he truly be called a noble. The name Turdrerosa truly belongs to him, otherwise after 3 years, he can only be called Thor, not Turdrerosa. Time continues to pass. 2 days later, the other 2 barons who were about to be canonized also arrived in Lucerne City. The preparations for the canonization ceremony were also declared complete. The Lucerne City Affairs officer came in person to ask them to participate in the canonization ceremony tomorrow. Marquis Lehman will personally award them the noble medals and declare them as members of the kingdom's nobles under the witness of the goddess of life. This night is destined to be sleepless. This is true for both Thor and the other 2 noble lords. Even the other pioneering lords in Lucerne City were somewhat affected. The night gradually passed. When the dawn sun fell in the room, Thor got up early in the morning. He began to quickly tidy up his manners. Fortunately, it was early enough, otherwise it would be too late. When the work was done, it was almost time for the coronation. Thor rode his white horse slowly towards the municipal center. The square in front of the municipal center was already crowded with people. A large number of free people and pioneer lords gathered here. Under the sunlight, the statue of the goddess of life exuded a faint and soft light. From his feet, a huge red carpet spread to the distance. Conferring the title of nobles is undoubtedly the most solemn event. Even 3 court earls came to the kingdom. At this moment, the three court earls were smiling, and Marquis Lyman stood on the high steps of the statue of the goddess of life. And Thor and the other two came slowly from a distance in three directions, wearing the most traditional knight costumes and knight swords. As they walked, flowers covered the entire ground. The band played exciting music. The three people looked solemn, and their figures took steps, and every movement was extremely in line with the etiquette of the nobles. When the three people reached the bottom of the stone steps, Marquis Lyman and the three court earls turned sideways. And the three knelt on one knee and faced the goddess of life. And the moment they knelt down, one of the three court earls opened the holy book in his hand. Young knight, are you willing to follow the 8 virtues and 9 rules of knighthood under the witness of the goddess of life? A gentle voice sounded. The whole surroundings suddenly became quiet. The air also became solemn. And in the solemn environment, along with his words, the voices of the three people also sounded. I, Terdrerosa, will be humble, honest, compassionate, brave, fair, sacrificial, honorable, and soulful. I swear to treat the weak well. I swear to bravely fight against violence. I swear to fight against all mistakes. I swear to fight for the unarmed. I swear to help anyone who asks me for help. I swear not to hurt any woman. I swear to help my brother knights. I swear to treat my friends sincerely. I swear to be loyal to my love until death. I, young knight, under the witness of the goddess of life, will you loyally guard your territory, fight for your honor, and fight for the glory of the nobility. I am willing, I will loyally guard my territory, fight for honor, and fight for the glory of the nobility. One after another, clanging sounds rose. No glory fell. Only a solemn environment. And as the words fell, Marquis Lyman stepped forward and handed 3 noble badges to the 3 people in turn. From today on, you will belong to the Tulip Kingdom's young eagles. Congratulations on becoming barons. May the goddess of life bless you. Marquis Lyman spoke. May the goddess of life bless you. The 3 of them also saluted. Then the 3 of them slowly stood up. The coronation was also declared over. Compared to the ancient coronation ceremony, the oath has undoubtedly become a formality, from a contract, to not needing to bear any responsibility. But this is also natural. With the passage of time, the virtues of the nobility are no longer much, let alone the 9 rules, even the 8 virtues are not many nobles can stick to, and to sign a contract with the goddess of life, it is completely because they think they have lived too long. 12,000, there are still 4,000 left to be sent tomorrow. Chapter 97. Rights and Obligations of the Nobility, Clearing Mission. The ancient enthronement ceremony ended. Thor and his 3 friends officially became the lowest nobles in the kingdom. From today on, he will be a baron bathed by the goddess of life. That pioneering territory will belong to him forever. It will be protected by the laws of the kingdom. At the same time, their identities are not only in the entire northern province, but even in the entire kingdom, they will enjoy the authority of the nobles. In such a result, the whole city of Lucerne could not help but set off a wave of enthusiasm again. This is the first time in 3 years that a pioneering lord has been enthroned as a baron. This has made the originally silent hearts of many noble lords burn again. Even many nobles have ideas. This is especially true for pioneering lords who think they have certain strength. It is not so easy to build a town of 5,000 people and have enough power to protect him, but it seems not so difficult to get 100 points of merit. Especially in the current turmoil in the northern province, it seems to be even more so. Of course, it is palpitating, but it is palpitating. Except for a few pioneering lords who were hot-headed and had just entered the northern province, most of the pioneering lords still had no intention of taking action. After all, as long as you have survived in the northern province for a period of time, you will know how powerful the orc tribe is. 100 merit points are indeed not many. But the difficulty of obtaining them is not small at all. A second-level minotaur is worth only 10 merit points, and they may not be sure to kill a second-level minotaur. Even the second-level goblins are difficult for most pioneering lords. However, even so, the prices of various weapons in Lucerne City began to soar. Of course, this is not something Thor needs to consider. No matter how much the price of weapons in Lucerne City soars, he can't pull the weapons to Lucerne City for sale. Unless he is really tired of living. Night gradually falls. Thor gently closes the holy book. At this moment, he has a greater understanding of the entire nobility. He also understands the rights and obligations of the nobility. As a noble, he will enjoy real privileges. This is clearly recorded in the Holy Book and is also engraved in the laws of the kingdom. In addition, the kingdom gave him the right to conquer and rule, and he would also have to fight for the kingdom. If he could choose to abandon his territory and escape from the war as a pioneer lord, the Kingdom War, and the Orc War, then as a noble, he no longer had a choice. Every 100 years, the territory under his jurisdiction must participate in the Kingdom War. As a baron, he does not need to pay taxes, but he needs to ensure that at least one great knight and more than 5 formal knights are selected to participate in the Kingdom War. This is his obligation to fulfill. No noble can escape. Even if he abandons his territory, he must participate. Kingdom War. Thor whispered, his eyes were solemn. He had known about the Kingdom War before, but the description of the Kingdom War in the Holy Book was more detailed, and he knew more clearly what the Kingdom War was. The battle for territory. The battle between nobles. Although there are only 2 empires on the entire continent, there are countless kingdoms. Under the 2 empires, the territory is limited, the resources are limited, and the fight is inevitable. So every 100 years, with the tacit consent of the 2 empires, the major kingdoms under the 2 empires will engage in kingdom wars to redistribute land, interests, and wealth. Every kingdom war is undoubtedly an opportunity for low-level nobles. As long as you grasp it, it is enough to soar to the sky. However, it can also be said to be a disaster, because low-level nobles are unlikely to have a strong ability to resist risks. A baron noble is likely to have only one great knight, and it is not certain whether he can gather 5 formal knights. Once he falls, the family will inevitably begin to decline. Of course, this has nothing to do with Thor. Now he is fully qualified to draw enough forces to participate in the Kingdom War. Even if there is a loss, he can bear it. Not to mention that he has a daily intelligence system. Even if he participates in the Kingdom War, it is enough to ensure his safety. He can even use this to gain a lot of merit. His eyes flickered. The thought was quickly suppressed. There are still 2 years before the Kingdom War, so there is no need to consider these things for the time being. In contrast, the development of the territory and the enhancement of strength are what he needs to consider. Thinking of this, his mind can't help but think of the 2 who were canonized as barons with him again. Clear up. Thor whispered, and his heart was a little throbbing. There are a lot of wealth and merits in the orc tribe, enough to support the 2 to become barons, and enough for him to further expand his harvest. And more importantly, he seems to be able to rely on clearing up to further expand the trade route to the northern region. Now his trade route only spreads around the main river valley, and the harvest has reached a certain degree of saturation. If you want to earn more, you must go out. This is undoubtedly an opportunity. Thoughts intertwined, and time slowly passed. Night gradually fell. The familiar system prompt sound rang again. Ding! The intelligence system has been updated. Open it. The mechanical sound sounded as usual. Open. Thor suppressed the anxiety in his heart and spoke subconsciously. And as his words fell. Buzz. Daily information has been updated. 1. 1,000 miles north of your city of Lucerne, a group of pig beasts will pass by. 2. In the west of your territory, Lord Saki accidentally discovered a small iron mine within the territory, but it was occupied by a group of timid goblins and was preparing to launch a pioneering war. 3. 15 days later, in the northwest of the main river valley, a group of kobolds will attack the territory of a pioneer lord. The group of kobolds possesses the extremely precious grass of life seeds. 4. In the north of Eagle Ridge, in the main river, there will be a group of tilapia swimming by. A5. A6. Located in the northern part of the main river valley, 30 miles south of the Northland Glacier Grand Canyon. 7. On the west side of the Autumn Leaf Territory, 300 miles away, a group of tiger-headed men will hunt down a group of fox maidens. A8. A. Lines of text are presented, and new information is presented. The situation was just as he thought. The entire Northland province was in relative chaos. Even the daily intelligence showed information about the invasion of various orc tribes. This is true even in the northern part of the country that has been wiped out. With the current situation, even the main valley may soon be affected again. Looking at this scene of information, Thor finally made up his mind. Early morning. When the morning sun shines. The glory of the goddess of life shines on the earth again. Thor took advantage of this year's opportunity to meet Marquis Lehman. As a baron of the Northland province, every baron has the opportunity to meet Marquis Lehman once a year. Only once. Thor thought for a long time before choosing to use this opportunity. In the manner. Thor once again met Marquis Lehman, the most legendary man in the kingdom in the past 30 years. He rose up from a small viscount family. He became the idol of countless noble children. Grown-ups. Thor performed the courtesy of knighthood. No need to be polite. Baron Thor, what's the matter? Marquis Lehman looked at Thor curiously and spoke with an inquiry. Lord Marquis, it's like this. After hearing about the attack by the orc tribe in the north, as a noble of the kingdom, Changge Ridge is willing to contribute to the kingdom to eliminate those damn orcs. Thor spoke and told his plan. As mentioned before, he came to request to participate in the purge. The orc tribe is a crisis, but it is also an opportunity for him. In this case, he would naturally not miss it. Oh, are you going to join the crackdown? Marquis Lehman was a little surprised. Although he was anxious for many noble lords to participate, except for a few powerful noble lords, others were not willing to participate. Thor's strength is not weak, but in his opinion, it is still far inferior to those others, and it is risky to go and eliminate them. Yes, Your Majesty the Marquis. Thor nodded. Young noble, you are very brave. I look forward to your performance. Let Frankie give Baron Thor a letter of appointment. Marquis Lehman smiled and nodded, then motioned to a knight attendant next to him. Yes. The knight's squire nodded quickly. And Thor left immediately. Under the guidance of the knight attendants, he slowly walked out of Marquis Lehman's place and began to go to apply for the appointment letter. Family Dressrosa. Marquis Lehman chuckled and then ignored it. For him, it was a small matter and he did not need to pay too much attention to it. In contrast, how to solve the current troubles is the most important. Even if he once again sent some reinforcements to the northern region. But the impact of the orc tribe still failed to calm down. Even the Flying Eagle Knights suffered a lot. This made Marquis Lehman extremely painful. He is not one of those families with extremely long inheritance. His family was just a viscount family before. His rise in a short period of time is not enough for him to accumulate enough. Every power under his hands is extremely precious. Every bit of strength is consumed and it is difficult to replenish it. But there was nothing he could do. As long as the Orc War doesn't break out or the Earth Dragon Knights suffer a major blow, the kingdom will not provide greater support. He could only hold on. This is also the obligation he needs to fulfill to obtain the Northland province as a fief. Marquis Lehman's thoughts were flowing. Thoughts quickly intertwined with the northern battlefield. And the other side. Thor soon received a letter of appointment. It was a letter of appointment stamped with Marquis Lehman in the affairs of the Northland province. He will have the right to go to the northern part of the province to clean up. Although even without it, he can still lead the troops to clear out the orc tribe. However, with this letter of appointment, the merit points he can get will be doubled, one for the mission of clearing up and another for killing the orcs. Just like before, if he had a clearing mission in hand, he would have 2 merit points for defeating the Minotaur tribe. Of course, he didn't know it before and couldn't take action. Now that I know it, of course I have to add it. After receiving the appointment letter, Thor immediately helped Ryan purchase the corresponding supplies and more slaves. This time he came not only to accept the canonization, but also to purchase supplies. Now that the main valley has settled down, it is natural to expand the scale of development. The number of people is the most important consideration. The previous population was far from enough, and he needed more people. I don't know if it was lucky. Although the destruction of a large number of territories has led to the continuous increase in the price of weapons, the price of slaves has begun to drop a little. Even the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce, which monopolizes the business, has lowered the price of slaves. So Thor only spent less than 200 gold coins to buy 2,000 slaves, including many female slaves. At the same time, other supplies have also been reduced a lot. This time he arrived at the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. The gold coins he spent were undoubtedly much less. This made Thor smile when he left. Early morning. The morning sun slowly fell, and Thor set off with his men and horses. There were only 20 people when they came, but when they left, there were already thousands of people and dozens of carriages. Even if the food was self-sufficient, he still needed to buy a lot of living supplies at this moment, especially now that the population had increased by another 2,000. 10 days later, Thor returned to the castle with his men. With Thor's return, the entire Eagle Ridge became completely lively. Thor officially became a baron. It also meant that they became the subjects of the baron's territory. Especially those free people. Although Thor had given them the status of free people before. But that was only in Eagle Ridge. Once they left Eagle Ridge, they would probably be sold into slavery again. But now it's different. Thor became a baron. Then they belonged to the free people of the baron's territory, so in the laws of the kingdom, they would also be considered real free people. In theory, no one could sell them anymore, except themselves. This is of great significance. Not to mention those knights. A knight of a pioneer lord, a knight does not have the status of a knight, but a knight of a noble lord is a real knight. The nature is completely different. Baron. Outside the territory, Peros brought a group of people to greet him, and he couldn't help but feel a little excited. When he learned that he was arranged to go to the pioneer territory to assist Master Thor, he was desperate, and he even felt that his life was bleak. For a pioneer lord, there was almost no hope. There was even a life crisis. But no one expected that in Master Thor's territory, he witnessed one incredible thing after another. At this moment, it was not even a year, and Master Thor, the young eagle of Dressrosa, had become a baron. It was only a year. It was only a year, it could not be called a miracle, but a miracle. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 98 Future Territory 2.0 Construction. Pelos was excited, and imagining, and so were the other knights who followed Thor to open up their territories, especially since they had almost witnessed the miracles belonging to their lord with their own eyes in the past time. That hope is undoubtedly getting stronger. Knights have dreams, free people have peace of mind, slaves have hope. The entire Eagle territory fell into a carnival. Thor immediately decided to hold a large party throughout the Eagle territory, and even invited 5 other lords from the main alliance. A huge bonfire burns. Large pieces of monster meat were eaten, even among the slaves. Thor had a smile on his face. Talk to the lords of the main valley one by one. The 5 lords congratulated Thor respectively and even sent many gifts. I didn't expect that this person, in just 1 year, would have reached where we are now. Baron Valmy sighed, looking at Thor beside the bonfire in the distance with a somewhat emotional expression. Yes. The descendants of Dressrosa are beyond our comparison. I heard that this time, there are 2 more people who have been canonized as barons, both of whom are the heirs of great nobles. Baron Grattan also had a hint of bitterness in his expression. As a low-level wandering knight who climbed up step by step, only he knows how much he has paid to reach this point, and how many times he has wandered between life and death. But what about Thor? What about the other 2 nobles who were canonized this time? Although they have also experienced many difficulties, they are completely incomparable to them. The 2 talked. The other 2 places were Saki and Josie Abbey, both of whom also had somewhat complicated moods. As for the center, Thor and Papyrus were talking quietly. Time passes slowly. The grand banquet gradually spread into the night before slowly ending. However, several lords did not leave. Instead, he was invited to the castle by Thor. In the castle meeting room, the maid brought fruits and drinks and then withdrew. And the eyes of several people couldn't help but focus on Thor. Sir Thor, I wonder if there is anything else. Baron Valmy spoke with a curious look on his face. As Baron Valmy spoke, the eyes of the other 4 people couldn't help but focus on Thor. Guys, I met with Marquis Lehman a few days ago and received a letter of appointment to wipe out the surrounding orc tribes. I wonder if you are interested. Looking at a few people, Thor then smiled and spoke. And his words had just fallen. The pupils of the 5 people could not help but shrink. Oh, my goddess, Lord Thor, you are not planning to participate in that purge, are you? Pappy Lawrence spoke with an unexpected expression, and his eyes couldn't help but twinkle. Hearing Thor's words at this moment, he couldn't help but be a little shocked. They were naturally aware of the cleanup mission during this period of time. It's just that they know it, and they have no intention to participate. Lord Thor, this. Baron Grattan also subconsciously wanted to speak. Others couldn't help but feel a little bit in their hearts, thinking of the alliance they had formed before. Suddenly a bad thought came to mind, especially the three barons, they had signed a contract. If Thor forced them to participate, they would have no ability to resist. Baron Pape, Baron Graydon, Baron Valmy. As I said before, the Kingdom War will only last for 2 years at most. If we can get more merit, whether it is used to offset the recruitment to participate in the Kingdom War, or to exchange for kingdom supplies, it will be extremely important. If the information is correct, Baron Graydon and Baron Valmy, your knight's breathing technique is just the most common knight's breathing technique in the kingdom. It does not have the ability to break through the knights of the earth. Even now, your knight's breathing technique absorbs the life source power. It's almost too late to keep up. Only 500 merit points are enough to exchange for the kingdom's first-class breathing method, and 1,000 points can even be exchanged for an existence that is not inferior to our Dressrosa family's eagle breathing method. The Northland province is currently just an attack. The kingdom has resisted the powerful orc tribe. The tribes that can enter the Northland province are much weaker and generally have a lot of wealth. Eliminating them will not only gain merit points, and we can also obtain a lot of wealth. This is our opportunity. Don't forget, the Kingdom War has only less than 2 years left. Thor spoke slowly, looking at Baron Graydon, Baron Valmy, and finally at Baron Pape. After listening to his words, Baron Graydon and Baron Valmy looked at each other. My mood fluctuated slightly for a while. Even Baron Pape is like this. The most important thing for Baron Graydon and Baron Valmy is the knight's breathing technique. As the lowest wandering knights, their breathing technique is extremely rudimentary. Even if they gain some meritorious service through pioneering lords and upgrade the knight's breathing technique, they still can't. Not enough. Not to mention supporting them to go higher, even just maintaining their current status is a bit difficult. Although Baron Pape does not have this problem, even he has to worry about the war in the kingdom. While the three of them were silent, Thor looked at the other two pioneer lords. Lord Josie, Lord Sage, if you don't register a large number of territories in the main valley with Lucerne City as soon as possible, they may not belong to you. Although this war is enough to support it, when the Kingdom War breaks out, unless you abandon the territory, otherwise you have to participate too. I don't think you two would want to give up your territory. The voice spoke again. Sachi opened his mouth, but also didn't know what to say for a while. Sir Thor, it is indeed possible to clear out, but there may be huge risks involved, and once we mobilize a large number of forces to leave the main valley, how will we respond if the territory is attacked by the orc tribe? Baron Pape took a deep breath and couldn't help but speak. And his words also made others feel quiet. It doesn't matter. We don't need to allocate all our strength. I, the Eagle Leader, will allocate 1 great knight and 20 official knights. You can allocate 1/3 of your strength respectively. As for the danger to the territory, north of us is the Northland Glacier. The orc tribe can only come from the lower reaches of the main river valley in the west. I will deploy the magic crystal cannon to the lower reaches, and don't forget that it is still the flood season. Thor chuckled and spoke. Since he was planning to participate in this crackdown, he was naturally fully prepared. If the Tauren can flood 7 armies with him, so can other orc tribes. Coupled with the magic crystal cannon, as long as you don't encounter the powerful Tauren before, you can almost completely handle it. Of course, what's more important is that Thor has a daily intelligence system, so he doesn't need to worry about his territory being attacked. Although not everything will be recorded in the daily intelligence, major events related to him and the territory must occur, and they usually occur 3 months in advance, which is enough for him to have enough time to deal with them. But you can't talk about this with these people. The daily intelligence system is his biggest secret. Well, you can go back and think about it and give me an answer within 10 days. I have no intention of forcing you. Thor looked at a few people, then smiled and spoke. Faced with Thor's words, everyone could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then they all stood up and said their goodbyes. Watching everyone leave, Thor didn't pay too much attention. He believed these people would agree. Being able to become pioneer lords and not choosing to escape during the previous turmoil, they definitely have the corresponding courage. As for why they were invited. On the one hand, his strength is not enough. On the other hand, the most important thing is to further integrate the main league. Without the threat of the minotaurs, even if the main alliance was formed, Without external threats, the unity of this alliance would be almost negligible. He went to great lengths to form an alliance, not just to gain a reputation, but for the next kingdom war and to conquer them. Stars gradually dotted the sky. Night gradually passed. A famous lord left the eagle territory with his thoughts. The morning sun shines down. A new day has arrived again. The whole eagle faced the sun again and woke up. Back in the castle, Thor also began to deal with the affairs of the eagle territory during this period. The first is the 2,000 newly purchased slaves. However, since Engel Dressrosa gave him a gift from the affairs officer, it was not very cumbersome to handle. Settlement was completed quickly. Apart from that, there is the reclamation of farmland. A year has passed, and the time for spring plowing has arrived. 2,000 more serfs have been added, and new cultivation is naturally needed. At the same time, many of the cultivated farmlands were destroyed due to flooding of the 7th Army, and Thor had to reorganize his manpower for reclamation. Of course, in order to avoid the possibility of the same thing happening again this time, Thor's reclamation this time deliberately avoided the places where the water flow may hit. There are traces of previous impacts, and the choice is extremely simple. The only problem is that it requires a lot of manpower. But what the Eagle leader lacks the most at this moment is manpower. Including this time, the number of citizens and slaves in the Eagle territory has exceeded 8,000. At this moment, his number has exceeded that of the other two of the three barons in the main valley, and is only inferior to that of Lawrence territory. This is naturally a time for development. The next few days. While the five lords were thinking, Thor began to plan the 2.0 plan for the entire territory. The land is cultivated and the territory is perfected. Exploring the wilderness. Resource utilization. These are the main tasks he needs to develop next. Especially after the division of the main league, the scope expanded nearly 10 times. It is not so easy to really eat it. The first is the construction of the town. After thinking about it, Thor decided to build another castle and a small town in the upper reaches of the main river valley, where the dam is located. On the one hand, the population of the town is diverted. On the other hand, the construction of the dam has created a large area of farmable land in the upstream area. At the same time, the dam can also be used to raise aquatic products, adding new financial revenue to the territory. You can even move the breeding of unicorn horses there. After all, the unicorn horses are already there. It can be used perfectly. The only problem is that it takes a lot of manpower. But there are already many ways to solve it. Not only did he buy another 2,000 serfs, but more importantly, Anna's appearance made it possible for him to enslave goblins. What is the most abundant in the northern province is not the magic beasts or other orcs. The magic beasts were wiped out more than half in the orc war decades ago. As for the orcs, except for this kind of impact, ordinary orcs are simply impossible to appear in the northern province. The only thing that is the most abundant in the entire northern province is the goblin. As the lowest existence of the orc tribe, they did not follow the orcs to evacuate the northern province, but stayed. With strong reproductive power and survival ability, they can reproduce rapidly even in the continuous development of the human knights. Although the wisdom of the goblin is not high. But if it is just a consumable among slaves, it is undoubtedly the best choice. These goblins may not be able to do some delicate work. But if it is just physical work, there is undoubtedly no one more suitable than them. This is what happened in the orc tribe. Among the human race, some powerful noble lords also use some goblins as mining slaves with huge consumption. Thor killed all the cowardly goblins in the iron mine before. It's not that he doesn't want to use them, but that he can't use them. He can't spend thousands of gold coins to hire a high-level magician to sign a slave contract for thousands of goblins. That's completely crazy. Slave contracts, as high-level contracts, are not something that ordinary trainee magicians can conclude. At least they require a third-level magician to perform. In the entire northern province, except for Marquis Lehman, it is probably not possible to find a second third-level magician. Naturally, there is no need to consider it at all. But this time is different. Anna's appearance and transformation made everything possible. Although Anna has not reached the third level, with the help of the power of the ice elves, she is enough to complete the conclusion of the slave contract. In this way, all problems are not a problem. He even has a plan to replace the mining slaves with goblins. It will undoubtedly further liberate productivity. So after the completion of the Territory Construction Plan 2.0, while waiting for the responses of several lords, Thor began to prepare for action. Just take advantage of this opportunity to clear out the surrounding goblins. Although the goblins do not pose much danger to the territory, they are orcs after all. Once there is any problem, these goblins will still pose a certain degree of threat to the territory. After cleaning up, it is just right to develop steadily. On the third day, Peros obeyed Thor's order, took Ryan, led 20 formal knights, 100 apprentice knights, and 300 young eagle knights from the Eagle Territory Castle, and started to clear the surroundings. The first order is more than 1,900. Well, it's a little worse than expected, but it doesn't matter. Just rely on updates. Starting from today, there will be 3 updates every day, one at 12 a.m., one at 12 noon, and one at 8 p.m., and the number of words is generally not less than 12,000 words, which is absolutely awesome. Chapter 99. Clearing out the goblins. Thor did not participate in the elimination of goblins. As mentioned before, goblins are much weaker than other orc tribes, so it is not too difficult to solve them. The only problem is that they are a little cumbersome. It can be used to train his subordinates. Whether it is Peros or Ryan, they will need to be independent in the future. If they are not trained well, they may not be able to keep up in the later stage. Thor does not want his initial subordinates to be unable to keep up with him. The morning sun gradually fell. 5 days passed in a blink of an eye. The 5 lords have not responded in these 5 days. However, Thor's elimination of goblins is in full swing. The eastern part of the Eagle Territory. In a mountain forest. Countless green goblins are constantly fleeing, and the flames cover the entire surroundings. A large amount of fierce fire oil is burning, causing each goblin to fall into panic. Kill. Pelos drew out the knight's sword in his hand, and the next moment he rushed in with 200 people. Fire, killing. Horse hooves, humans. At this moment, countless green goblins were panicking. Fleeing. However, it was useless, the killing of the human knights continued to spread. Only the goblins crawling on the ground could escape this killing. So, more green goblins began to crawl on the ground. An hour later, the battle was over. More than half of the more than 2,000 green goblins were killed, and more than 700 were captured. As for the other green goblins, they had already fled. Pelos ignored it. There were too few people to capture them all over the mountains. He could only let it go. Then he began to quickly extinguish the flames. Among the Eagle Knights, hundreds of people quickly stepped forward and tied up these green goblins. Their movements were extremely skillful. It was obvious that they had done this countless times in the past few days. Map. Pelos ignored the captured green goblins and spoke to the squire knight next to him. Yes. The squire knight responded quickly and soon brought a map to Pelos. Pelos took the map and soon focused his eyes on it. This was given to them by Thor before the action. It not only had a complete record of the topography, but also had various mines and important tasks marked on it. Thor's map was undoubtedly the most important for him to have such a smooth journey. After a moment, he looked at the squire knight. Knight Ryan, where are they? Pelos asked with a frown. After setting off, the two had separated. The knights, led by him, Pelos, and Ryan, led a group of people from the east and west, or more accurately, from both sides of the main river valley to clear the entire surrounding area. He was on the east coast, and Ryan was on the west coast. He didn't know if it was because the east coast had been cleared out, and the harvest was not as big as he had imagined, which made him a little disappointed. Lord Peros, Lord Ryan is said to have arrived at the middle section of the main river valley. The squire knight said respectfully. Middle section. How much did they harvest? Pelos raised his eyebrows and asked with a puzzled look. 3 days ago, they seemed to have cleared out a goblin tribe of 3,000 people and captured more than 1,000 goblins. Together with the previous captures, the number should have reached 3,000. The squire knight spoke carefully. And listening to the words of the squire knight, Peros's eyebrows jumped. In the past few days, the number of goblins he captured was only more than 1,000, and this time he didn't even reach 2,000, so his number was obviously much less. Full speed set off. We can't fall too far behind. Pelos spoke, and then called on the knights to set off again. Currently, it is the location of a small iron mine in the map. As for the captured goblins, they were sent to the Eagle territory by the Eagle Knights. Time passed day by day. The cleanup was spreading. Goblin tribes had to migrate. Faced with such a large-scale cleanup mission, they had no way to deal with it except to escape. But in the process of fleeing, their living space became smaller and smaller. The more lords there were in the northern province, the less living space they had. The main river valley was originally a good living space. Although there were more than 20 pioneering lords, the main river valley was large enough, and outside the pioneering lords were large tracts of wilderness, which were all spaces for goblins to survive. However, when Thor's cleanup began, this peace was completely broken. In a cave, red goblins gathered one by one. At this moment, they were full of panic. The large-scale cleanup of humans had to be faced by them even in the wilderness. Damn it, those humans, why are they here again? This. What should I do? What should I do? Humans are coming. In the crypt, figures are in chaos. Even the red goblin leader at the center is not much better. Great goblin god, don't you no longer protect your people? The leader of the red goblin spoke with a trembling voice. Chief, let's run away. Those damn humans will kill us all. A red goblin couldn't help but speak. When he talked about killing them all, the red goblins around him couldn't help but tremble. Ever since humans entered the Northland province, everything they encountered could almost be called a nightmare. But, we still have our ore here. The goblin leader hesitated a little, looked at the pieces of ore on the rock wall, and struggled in his heart. Chief, it's not good, it's not good. Humans are coming. While he was struggling, a red goblin quickly ran in with a panicked voice. And before his voice fell, the entire crypt suddenly became more turbulent. Many goblins simply spread their legs and fled outside. Then all the goblins in the crypt were fleeing. In the blink of an eye, all the goblins ran out of the crypt. Ore. No one cares about the ore anymore. After an hour, Ren came to this place with his troops. When he saw the ores in the cave, Ren's eyes couldn't help but light up. Copper mine. There actually is a copper mine. Ren murmured to himself, looking a little excited. Copper mines are also extremely important to the Eagle territory. No matter how small a copper mine is, it is of great value. Because copper mines can not only make brass armor, but can also be used as currency. Unlike iron coins, copper coins are already considered the lowest currency among the nobles, and their value far exceeds iron coins. After Ren led his troops to block this place. Then he set off again. Time passes again. Soon another 3 days passed. In the past few days, with the help of the map, both Peros and Ren were able to clear out the enemy extremely quickly. In a short period of time, both of them had almost completed less than half of the area they cleared. It will take up to 2 months to complete the eradication of existence within the entire Eagle territory. And in the midst of this large-scale purge, the harvest is also extremely huge. A steady stream of goblins were transported to the Eagle Castle. At first it was just a few hundred, then 1 or 2,000. Gradually, the number of goblins exceeded 5,000 or 8,000. A large number of goblins gathered. Thor quickly replaced some of the goblins as slaves in the mine. The slaves in the mine were liberated and fell into the construction of Eagle territory. At the same time, some of the remaining goblins were moved to several other recently discovered mines. The last one was thrown into the construction of small towns in the upper reaches of the main valley. With a large number of goblins joining, both the number of mines and the speed of construction have suddenly increased. After all, slaves still need to consider issues of life and death. Goblins don't need it. With the goblin's reproductive ability. Even if he cleans it out now, it will take less than 2 years for the goblins around here to recover again. There is no need to worry about consumption at all. Eagle Castle, where the school is located. The rich power of life bloomed, and a huge light green magic circle appeared in midair. And below, there were horrified goblins. Their pupils widened and they wanted to run away. But the invisible binding force was intertwined on their bodies, making it impossible for them to escape. Buzz. Above the huge magic circle, the light fell. The next moment, signs of 6 pointed stars appeared on the foreheads of each goblin. At the same time, above the huge magic circle in midair, silently suspended parchment scrolls fell down. Anna's face turned pale, but she quickly took the parchment. Master, the contract has been concluded. Anna spoke softly. Thanks for your hard work. Thor spoke softly, feeling a little distressed. During this period of time, Anna continued to form relationships, and her mana consumption was extremely serious. But besides Anna, he had no other choice. Third-level magicians were not that easy to find. He sighed softly before taking the parchment. It's okay. Anna is very happy to be able to help the master. Anna spoke with a soft smile. Go and rest, I'm afraid there will be more to come. Thor spoke softly. Anna nodded softly and did not show off. The conclusion of such a contract also consumes a lot of money for her. Now that it was almost used up, she had to seize this time to meditate. This kind of consumption and meditation can be regarded as a kind of practice for her. Although she is tired these days, Anna can clearly feel that her mental power is improving rapidly. At this speed, she will soon reach the second-level peak. Anna went to meditate, and Thor began to think about the next thing. It can be expected that there will be more goblins in the future. With the size of the Eagle territory, it would be difficult to use so many goblins. Even though he had several more mines this time, it was still impossible to fully utilize them. In this case, he needs to consider how to deal with it next. Thinking of this, Thor's eyes could not help but look at the map. He looked at the pioneering lords everywhere. The 6 lords who stayed in the main valley this time undoubtedly had a good harvest, and even several of them obtained a large mine. These all require sufficient manpower. Especially this time, the expanded lords need more people to cultivate and develop, and manpower is even more scarce. These goblins are undoubtedly the best supplement. I believe that those lords should be very happy to buy. The sale of goblins is not considered a slave trade. As long as it is not too big, I believe that there will not be too many people paying attention to Lucerne City. The only problem is how he should set the price. The slaves in Lucerne City are 10 silver coins each, and even the cheapest thin slaves need 1 silver coin each. His price naturally cannot be so high. It needs to be more affordable. Thoughts flowed in his mind, and Thor was thinking. Finally made a decision. The figure quickly finished writing with a quill pen on the desk. Come here. The words began. Soon a knight pushed the door open and walked in. Sir. The knight spoke respectfully. Make 4 copies of this letter and send them to the 5 lords. Thor spoke and quickly instructed the knight. Yes. The knight responded and quickly retreated. Then they took action quickly. And that was when Thor sent the letter to several people. On the other side, 10 days will soon pass. The 5 pioneering lords gathered together. In the castle of Lucerne City. All 5 of them frowned. Even after 7 or 8 days, they were still a little undecided. The clearing mission and facing the threat of orcs are no joke. If you don't do it well, you will suffer heavy losses. They really don't want to do it unless it's a last resort. However, Thor's words did affect them. The kingdom war is too close. With their current strength, let alone rising with the help of the kingdom war, it may be difficult to ensure that they don't suffer heavy losses. In this way, it is undoubtedly more entangled. So now they have to gather together and think about whether they should go. Everyone, tell me. There are only 10 days left, we have to make a decision. Baron Pape spoke, looking at everyone. But even if he spoke, no one in the crowd spoke. Some people wanted to speak, but the words stopped when they reached their mouths. It was reviewed and just released. Chapter 100 Main Alliance goes out. Everyone, Lord Thor is right. This is our chance, so I decided to follow Lord Thor to the north to clean up. Looking at the silent crowd, Joe's Anubi spoke. His words instantly made everyone's eyes focus on him. Joe's, you. Saki looked at Joe's Anubi with shock, and he was about to say something. The 3 barons frowned slightly and did not speak. Saki, 3 barons, this is our chance. Others will not tell you about the cruelty of the kingdom war. Baron Pape, as a member of the Lawrence family, you should know better than me. With the current strength of our territory, if we cannot quickly improve in the next 2 years, the loss may be beyond our ability to bear. This time is very dangerous, but not that dangerous. The Kingdom Dragon Knights and Marquis Lehman's Eagle Knights are our backers. They resisted the truly powerful orc tribes. We only need to face the first level or second level orc tribes at most. It may be difficult for our family to deal with it, but 6 territories are definitely enough to deal with it. Looking at the crowd, Joe's Abi's eyes fell on Pape Lawrence, and the words rang again. And his words made each figure have a strange look in their eyes, and their eyes couldn't help but look at Pape Lawrence. Huh. I am also willing to participate, everyone. Lord Jose is right. The scale of the kingdom war is beyond imagination. We must seize the opportunity. The eyes of several people gathered together. Pape Lawrence looked deeply at Jose Abi, and then nodded to confirm. As Jose Abi said, he knew the scale of the kingdom war and its cruelty. In comparison, although there are certain dangers to face now, it is indeed nothing compared to it. Since both of you said so, then add me. Baron Graydon took a deep breath and nodded. In the end, only Thatch and Baron Valmy came. The eyes of several people gathered together. I will join too. Thatch hesitated for a moment, and finally nodded. It seems that I have no choice. Baron Valmy smiled bitterly. At this moment, 4 of the 5 people agreed. If he disagreed, wouldn't it be equivalent to being excluded? And he was not a fool. The words of Jose Abi and Pape Lawrence made him clearly feel the great danger contained in the Kingdom War. Since everyone has made a decision, then you can tell Lord Thor. Pape Lawrence nodded and spoke. No one objected to this. But just as they were about to act, the door was knocked. Come in. Pape Lawrence frowned, but still spoke. He knew that in this case, if there was nothing important, his butler would not disturb him. The knock at this moment was obviously a big deal. Creaky. The wooden door was opened. A butler walked in. Master, Lord Thor, the eagle, sent a letter. The butler spoke respectfully. Lord Thor. Pape Lawrence was stunned for a moment, and the people around him were also a little curious. But curiosity was curiosity, and no one spoke. Pape Lawrence looked around, and then opened the letter without hesitation. Several people around were a little curious. However, just a moment later, Pape Lawrence looked up with an incredible moment. The words came out, and Pape Lawrence couldn't help shaking in his heart. What's wrong? Baron Pape, what happened? Baron Graydon couldn't help but speak, and the eyes of others couldn't help but gather over. You guys take a look. Your territory should have received it too. Looking at the puzzled eyes of the crowd, Baron Pape looked at the letter in his hand, hesitated slightly, and handed the letter over. Valmy took it first. But the reaction was almost the same. When the letter was passed to several other lords, everyone couldn't calm down. Gudong, Baron Pape, what did you say about Lord Thor's words? Baron Graydon felt dry in his mouth and couldn't help asking out loud. That one wouldn't have a third-level magician. Baron Valmy was more direct. I don't know. In theory, the Dressrosa family should not have the strength to have a third-level magician. Pape Lawrence shook his head, looking a little confused. As a Count family, at this moment Pape Lawrence only felt that his family was a little too weak, or that he was not optimistic about it. Why is the gap so big? Let's go and have a look, we should know when we get there. Jose Abi's eyes flickered, and he spoke directly. Yes, go and have a look and you will know. If it's true, we may really have a chance. Hearing his words, the eyes of others lit up, and Baron Graydon couldn't help but speak. Soon, the 5 people chose to set off. The target is Eagle Territory. 1 day later, the 5 people arrived at Eagle Territory. When they arrived at the Eagle Territory, their pupils shrank and their expressions were full of shock. Because there were many goblins in the Eagle Territory in their sight. Some goblins were even carrying various heavy objects. This scene. The previous speculation seemed to have become a reality. You said that Lord Thor would not have hired a third-level magician from the Habsburg Chamber of Commerce. Saki muttered to himself. Impossible, a third-level magician, even if it is just hired, the price is more than 1,000 gold coins, and thousands of gold coins are enough to buy a large number of slaves, which is completely unnecessary. Jose Abi shook his head and spoke softly. And his words made everyone more silent. If there is no hiring, then there is only one possibility, that the Eagle Territory itself has it. But this is even more shocking than hiring a third-level magician. That is a third-level magician. Even the Earl family like Lawrence does not have a third-level magician. Not to mention the Earl family like Lawrence, in the entire Tulip Kingdom, even the Marquis family is not owned by everyone, most of them don't have it. It's incredible that Thor, a descendant of the Dressrosa family, actually has it. Several people walked along the way with mixed feelings. Soon arrived at the Eagle Castle. At this moment, Thor already knew they were coming. In the castle, Fellows came in person to greet them. In the hall, several people met Thor again. At this moment, Thor still had a faint smile, and it seemed that he had not changed. What do you think? Are you willing to join? After everyone walked in, Thor spoke again. Sir Thor, excuse me, I would like to ask, can you really provide a large number of goblins? Can you restrain them? Baron Valmy spoke, looking at Thor. As he spoke, the surroundings suddenly became quiet, and a series of eyes gathered. Of course, you should have seen that Eagle territory has a large number of goblins, but that's not all. There are more in the mines and dams, and I can provide them. As for the constraints, this is even simpler. Everyone should know this, so I don't need to say more. Thor smiled and said, then waved his hand, and a parchment scroll appeared. Looking at the parchment scroll, the hearts of the people present were condensed, and their hearts couldn't help but be shaken again. Everyone, since we are allies, the price is easy to talk about. How about 1,000 goblins for 10 gold coins? For the first level goblins, how about 30 gold coins for 1,000? Looking at the shock of everyone, Thor thought for a while before speaking again. This price is the price he gave after careful consideration. Goblins are naturally not as good as human slaves, and they can't be more expensive than human slaves, at least not more expensive than human slaves in the northern province. Originally, Thor planned to set the price at 1 gold coin, and he would directly beat him 10 copper coins for 1 goblin. But after thinking about it, he gave up. This business could not be expanded in a short time. Then the number of sales would be limited. In this case, selling at a low price was not a good choice. So he simply set the price at the slave price of Frostmoon province. But even so, such a price was tempting enough. 10 gold coins, 1,000. Hearing his words, the 5 people present couldn't help but brighten their eyes. 1,000 goblins are only 10 gold coins, which means the price of a goblin is even less than 1 silver coin. Even a first-level goblin is only 3 silver coins. Thinking about the slave price in Lucerne City, even these pioneering lords who have been in the Northland province for many years, their eyes suddenly brightened. Although they are not as good as human slaves, goblin slaves also have advantages that human slaves cannot match. They are stronger and don't feel bad when they are consumed. There is no need to even consider subsequent placement. Yes, 10 gold coins for 1,000, but the minimum order is 3,000. If you are interested, you can submit a purchase application to Peros. Thor said with a smile. I understand. Sir Thor, we have come this time and have made a decision to participate in the cleanup. Pape Lawrence nodded, then hesitated for a moment and spoke. Oh, have you made a decision too? Thor was a little surprised and looked at the other people. Yes, Sir Thor, I have made a decision. The next one is Sir Lauter. Baron Valmy also spoke. Then the other people nodded one after another. Looking at the expressions and words of these people, Thor was a little surprised. To be honest, Thor had been prepared for some people to disagree. After all, facing the orc tribe, there are many risks. Others do not have his daily intelligence system, and they don't know that he has this. Compared with taking risks, building a territory is the best choice. Unexpectedly, none of the 5 people backed down. Of course, despite the unexpectedness, Thor still showed a hint of joy. The addition of 5 people is undoubtedly the best result. Not only can the strength of the main alliance reach its maximum level, but more importantly, the addition of 5 people will prevent any other changes from happening to the main alliance. Now that the main valley is barely a whole, Thor doesn't want to divide it up again. You are too kind. With you joining us, our clearing mission will be easier. Thor said with a smile. Then the 6 people began to discuss the clearing mission and the joint matters of the 6 territories. With the previous experience, this time the alliance, everyone also consciously took Thor's Eagle territory as the center. On the morning of the 3rd day, the personnel of the other 5 territories began to gather in the Eagle territory. Unlike before, the force mobilized this time was a little weaker. Among them, Baron Pape Lawrence brought 5 official knights, more than 20 apprentice knights, and more than 100 reserve knights, while Baron Valmy brought 3 official knights, more than 10 apprentice knights, and 100 reserve knights, and Baron Graydon brought 2 official knights, more than 10 apprentice knights, and more than 100 reserve knights. Thatch is a formal knight, 5 trainee knights, and more than 50 reserve knights. What is surprising is that Zhou's Abi actually brought 3 formal knights, more than 20 trainee knights, and more than 100 reserve knights, which is more than Baron Graydon and Baron Valmy, and second only to Baron Pape. And Thor led the team this time, and Ryan followed, dispatching a total of 1 great knight, 20 formal knights, hundreds of trainee knights, and 300 reserve knights. The 6 teams gathered, and the number of people directly reached more than 1,000. Although it is not as strong as the last time facing the minotaurs, this force is strong enough. After all, if a few lords are added, the number of great knights in this team is as high as 6. Generally, it is difficult for relatively weaker viscounts to have 6 great knights. Not to mention, the number of formal knights is as high as nearly 40, and the number of trainee knights is even hundreds. Such a force, not to mention other places, no lord in the northern and eastern parts of the northern province can take out. Only the descendants of the great nobles in the west have the possibility. 5 days later, the main alliance was integrated. Then they set out in a mighty force. The target was the lower reaches of the main river, which was the northern part of the Northland province. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.